And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time, but of course 5:05 Pacific Coast. Dark, bright, and early. Elijah Diaz, I see your background. Looks like you're bright and early. Looks like you're on the Pacific Coast with me. Anyway, we got a great show for you. Elijah Diaz, going to have a great interview. He's running for City Council District 45. He's a Brooklynite. He's a real New York City guy. What's interesting about Elijah Diaz, he's a young man with a powerful presence on the block. So let's get right into it. Elijah, let's talk about where you grew up, how you grew up. If you could tell us a little bit how you pioneered your own business at a young age and why you got into politics.
Yeah, so lifelong Flatbush native, born and raised in Brooklyn by way of Puerto Rico. And I started my business at 19. I was in college. I actually got an athletic college, a scholarship to play baseball. I was a pitcher in college. I went to SUNY Purchase, made my way around the block, ended up at John Jay, and eventually, decided that college wasn't the right fit for me at the time. I really loved business, and you don't need a degree to get into business, to start your own business, to become an entrepreneur. So I decided, why the hell not, So I started my business at 19. It was a marketing agency for small businesses and nonprofits. And I really had a passion for it. I studied journalism in college, and that's where I really got my media skills and started to see the creation or the vision of creation that I wanted to create for other businesses, for myself, but mainly for other people. And through that, it got me a little bit into politics. I think it was during the time where we were transitioning from Trump's first term into Biden, and it was really controversial. It was a controversial time, and so I started getting involved a little bit more into it. But it was really when Trump started running again for his second term that I was like, yeah, I really want to watch this guy. I really want to watch, the state of the country, the state of New York at this time. And it really just, it became a passion for me. So, I think it's been ill-willed in the past few years, especially in the past couple of decades. And I'm looking to change that. So that's where my political career comes into play.
Tell us about growing up in New York City. Like, how was that? How was growing up for you? Did you have any political views as a young kid? Did you see anything you didn't like? Did you see things you did like? And then has that changed? Has that evolved over time?
No, I mean, growing up in Brooklyn, you're kind of ignorant to it. As a kid, you don't really think about politics per se. I mean, you see things going on around you, but growing up in Flatbush, as gentrified as it is now, it wasn't always like that. And so I grew up around crime. I grew up around, gangs down the block. I grew up with kids that were in gangs. Thank God I never got into it. But, you see these things going on and you think it's normal. And when I was growing up, my family full of Democrats. And I always thought, Democrat for the working class, for the poor people, Republican bad, only for rich, racist white guys. And, that was just the dynamic. That was just what I understood. And that was it. We kept it pushing from there. So to grow up, not even grown up, I'm 18 years old and I'm first registering to vote. And initially I wanted to go independent. I didn't trust either. This was, again, the time where I didn't fully understand the Republican Party or Republican values. All I understood was Democrat good, Republican bad. And when I saw that the Democrats weren't, effectively what they were preaching that they were, that's when I wanted to go independent. And so, now that Kathy Hochul got rid of the Independence Party completely, I started looking into, okay, now it's either Democrat or Republican. And so, through that research and seeing that Republicans are just guys like us, working class guys that have traditional values, traditional standings on issues, it's a no-brainer. It's really a no-brainer to be a part of the Republican Party.
There's actually a good question from one of our friends on the podcast, Neil S.
Yeah.
Just one of the questions I'll ask you. I guess to get an idea of where in Brooklyn you grew up and what high school did you go to? So before you answer that, so what high school did you go to? Also, I'm just curious growing up because you talked about gangs and stuff like this. And,
Yeah.
John and I both lived in Brooklyn also. What was your thoughts on the police? Obviously, that's going to be part of your political platform is public safety. What was your thoughts on the police growing up and what did you see along with where did you go to high school?
Yeah, proud Hornet, Midwood High School. Born and raised again in Brooklyn, but my local precinct is the 7-0, and I love those guys down there. My family is I'm family to the uniform. My uncle served in the Marines. I have another uncle that was, I forgot where. I don't know if it's the 116 in the Bronx, somewhere around Yankee Stadium. I'm not sure exactly what precinct that is. But, I'm family to the uniform. I've always had respect, even if we had troubling times with the police force. My mother always raised me to be respectful to the police and be respectful towards authority. These people keep us safe. And that's always been my relationship with them. I never really had a ill will towards the police, maybe even during the Black Lives Matter riots when you had the all cops are bad movement. It was just a question for me. It wasn't really that I had an ill will. It was more so, why are people feeling this way? Do we have a corrupt system of the police force, or do we have people who are trying their hardest in trying times? And that was just the big question. So I've always had a pro-police mindset, though.
So Elijah, so tell us about, just being a young kid. You're not happy with the political landscape. You're like, I want to jump into politics. Tell us what that road has been like with you. Like, as far as, if you could go in depth, as far as getting yourself on the ballot. If you had any trouble, have you had any endorsements? Just tell us about that. Like, what would somebody, just a regular person, I want to run for city council, what was that like for you?
So I started with an individual that was running for mayor earlier this year. I'd rather not say his name. It's a bit controversial, but I started with this individual back in October, and he sold me the dream of, you're going to be the youngest campaign manager, you'll be the youngest chief of staff, you'll be X, Y, and Z, you'll be the president one day, selling me the dream. I saw right through it at that point, but it was more so I wanted to get involved, and that was the extent of it. So I served as his campaign manager from October to January. I went to Trump's inauguration. I was there the entire week for events, and it was just a learning process. Learning how to call people, learning the political landscape, learning how to actually get what you want done, and it was a different world for me, and I learned very quickly. So again, I started from October. In January, we parted ways. There was a lot of corruption going on with his camp, and again, ill-willed politicians. So not even a week later, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to let this guy deter me from my path in helping people. So I decided to jump into the race, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I said, hey, listen, city council is this year. I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to win. There's, it's not about being a career politician or being in a position to actually run. I'll admit publicly, I wasn't ready to run when I decided I was going to run. It was more so, I'm going to learn along the way, and I'm going to give it my absolute 1,000%, because this is not a personal calling for me. This is not I'm in it for Elijah Diaz only. No, I'm in it for everybody in my community and becoming the change that I want to see, because nobody else has ever decided to do that. I'm the first Republican to ever run in this district. Do you know how difficult it is to just put your face out there and say you're a Republican just like that? People think that you're the fascist Trump, you're crazy far right, crazy religious, whatever people think. The ignorance is just widespread nowadays. But I couldn't let that deter me. So I've realized that in 33 years that this district has been incorporated, not a single Republican has run. So that's where I draw the line and I say, now is the time that we make history. Now is the time that we show them what traditional values stand for and how it's going to help the community going forward, because we've never had this. We've had progressivism, and for 33 years, we've been going downhill.
You know, it's unfortunate, and it's interesting what you touched on. And you touched on how you're the first Republican running for the seat. And obviously, we can assume that you're going to receive a lot of opposition if you actually win the seat, being a Republican, and hopefully you would join the Common Sense Caucus. But with that being said, what type of opposition did you face, and any slander, or what type of attacks have you received since you're a young Hispanic male? And we know, unfortunately, sometimes people try to box you in because you're a Hispanic male. You should think this way. You should be a part of a certain party. So going forward, well, not even just going forward, but what type of attacks and slander have you received running as a Republican, especially as a young male Hispanic coming from Brooklyn?
Yeah. Before we get into that, I wanted to touch on the last question. Curtis Lee was the only guy that's endorsed me so far from the party, from anybody. I don't have any union endorsements. Curtis Lee was the only guy that's put his hat in there for me.
But you are a conservative backed GOP backed candidate though.
No, I wasn't initially endorsed by the GOP. I had to get my own petitions and do my own process.
No, 100%. But now you're on that line, right?
Now I'm on the Republican and conservative line, and actually we'll get into that right now with this question.
He's on top of it, no joke. A lot of people like your hat, by the way. There's a lot of people in the audience.
Thank you guys.
They want you to read what the hat says. I think some people got it. I'm not
leadership of the new era. That's what it says here.
What does that mean? Before you go on, what is leadership of the new era?
Hold on. There we go. Leadership of the new era. It's still
what is that? What is that to you?
That's leadership? The brand. That's the brand that I've created. It's a testimony to new leadership in New York City. I have a lot of constituents that I've aligned myself with, and again, we're just normal people. We're not career politicians. We're not in it for ourselves. We weren't even thinking about running a political race last year or even 6 months ago. It's just leadership that is genuine, leadership that is unorthodox from what we've seen before. We've seen the Andrew Cuomos, we've seen the Chuck Schumers, we've seen the Eric Adams, so we've seen who's another lifelong guy, Mitch McConnell. We've seen all these guys. You've never seen someone like me, 22 years old, coming in the race, an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur at that, and jumping in and putting in their hat in the race and really showing the leadership skills, not the political, the orthodox political skills. But we'll get into the question at hand, is the attacks. So the attacks, I've gotten sued already. Now it's going to be my third time in court. Farah Lewis, the incumbent, District 45. She's been in since 2019. She preceded Jumaane Williams when he went into the public advocate role. And now we're back in here in court. They're appealing the process. They wanted to invalidate my petitions, and they actually threw the entire book at me. I had probably about 12 to 15 pages of objections that they could have went with in court on both Conservative Party and Republican Party lines. And we won both cases. So,
what were some of those? What was some of those objections? Like, what is Farah Lewis saying that you shouldn't be on the ballot about specifically?
Again, she threw the book at me. So there's every single thing down the line. I'm not even sure exactly what she's contesting specifically. It's literally the entire book. So, it's just.
Is there any technicalities in that document that you could draw on? Anything specific that you can recall?
I don't have anything specific. I actually have the paperwork right here. Let me see if I can pull it up.
It's interesting that you say they threw the book at you. I mean, I would be flattered at the same token that they feel you're such a threat that they have to try to sue you so many times.
Yeah. Again, there was no specific, I'm going after you for this reason. It was literally the entire book on both. So they really don't want me to run. They don't want me on the ballot. And that being said, yesterday, when I was preparing to get on the show, I got a text from my lawyer and said, "Hey, listen, the lawfare continues. They're appealing the court decision." And I said, "Well, back into war we go, Jimmy." So, I'm ready for it. I'm living for it right now, 1,000%. Even when I got the first idea that we were going to get sued, and I wasn't properly served, by the way. They left a FedEx right in front of my door for anybody to take in the public. It was literally outside. Anybody could walk by and just snag it. So I wasn't properly served at first. But when I found out that I'm being sued in court, I just had the biggest smile on my face. I said, wow, not even 2 months into my campaign, and these guys are coming after me with everything they've got. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing nonetheless. I don't take it as, any bit of extremity. I find it as a little bit of adversity, going to court and not understanding all the technical terms, why this is happening to me. But I'm grateful for it every step of the way. And the slander, by the way, is now that people are figuring out who I am, and not even figuring out who I am, just the party that I represent. Now I'm getting oh, you're a fascist. Oh, you have false intentions. Oh, you're a racist. Oh, you're X, Y, and Z. There's a whole list of things that I've been getting lately. People are actually ripping down my posters from the business owners,
Right.
from the
You can't be a Hispanic male in Brooklyn and have traditional values. That's racist.
Yeah.
You have to.
But they rip my face. They don't rip anything else. They rip my face, and that's it. So that's the bit of adversity that we've been going through recently.
But I think I think it's more than adversity. I do. Like when I learned about what was going on with you about a week ago, and then I saw what happened last night with the appeal, and just what you're saying right there. I mean, it's lawfare. Just that simple act of not even serving you properly is fraudulent.
Mm-hmm.
That was done so that, if someone would have stole that package, you wouldn't be on the ballot right now. They would have said they lied, fraudulently lied, and said they served you, when in fact they did not. That is a huge deal. That is a big problem for a seated council person to be using the legal system. And, I don't know your personal finances. I don't know what they are, but you live in Brooklyn. I know that I lived in Brooklyn. I lived in Staten Island. I lived in New York City, and I did pretty well when I lived in New York City as an adult. As a child, we really didn't have much. When I was your age, I didn't have anything. But like as I grew, my finances grew, but I still just got by. So here you are running your business. You're coming out of your own pocket to run a campaign, and this lawfare is being weaponized to keep people who don't have the almighty dollar to go out and find a lawyer and have a lawyer represent them off the ballot. I mean, the same person, Farah Lewis, who's sitting there saying she wants to uplift communities, she wants to uplift Black and brown communities, in my opinion, is utilizing lawfare and the system against people who she poses as a threat. That is a big deal. So fraudulently serves you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also aware that there was some fraudulent signature on some of the court documents as well, that it was actually not even her signature. And if I was to do that as a police officer, if Eric was to do that as a police officer, we would have been arrested for perjury. We would have been arrested and removed from our positions in the New York City Police Department. So there's a lot going on with Farah Lewis there. Like, I'm not like, this is people often ask, like, what's going on? Why can't we get good candidates in New York? Here's one right here. Why can't you? Because they're using lawfare against this kid, and they're using the legal system to shut people out from even being on the ballot.
Yep. I wondered the same thing, and I don't know if it's a telltale sign that maybe it's the area, maybe it's the seat, but yeah, definitely I can understand now why we don't have good leadership, and it's because they band together and they pick and choose who they want. It's very simple.
Well, it's unfortunate, right? It becomes a game. The politics. It's kind of like Game of Thrones. It really is. It's very reflective of Game of Thrones. That's why it's such a good show, because that show is really reflective of life. But here you are, running for council, seat 45. I mean, I'm sure you know on this podcast we talk a lot about legislation and just the crazy idiocy that comes from the city council. So you spoke earlier about growing up in Brooklyn, about gangs, something I'm very familiar with, being a lieutenant in the South Bronx, being a cop in New York City. Same thing with John. We both grew up in New York City. What are your thoughts on the gang database that the city council is trying to remove from the NYPD, which we feel is a major and valuable tool to track gangs in New York City? What are your thoughts on this craziness when it comes to the gang database?
Yeah. My question to you is, would you rather see a threat coming at you with crystal clear, or would you rather a smoke screen in front of you? Common sense.
Crystal clear.
This gang database, they try to say that it's racist. And again, it reminds me of the stop and frisk. And, at the time, my mom was telling me, be careful, you're a Hispanic man, you have to watch out. And it's, it reminded me somewhat of that, because now they're saying that it's racist and it's, against only minorities, it's only against black and brown. And it's just, I can't even fathom it. I'm just trying to think about the words, and I just can't even fathom that we would tell gang members or people who only mean to cause harm to the everyday New Yorker that, hey, we're watching you. We're gonna come after you eventually. Why are we doing that? Why are we trying to exploit the system and get rid of tools that we can use to prevent crime? See, this is the NYPD under a democratic society, is that we can tell the criminals when and where we're going to be so that you can commit a crime over there. And then after the crime is already committed, now we're going to, quote unquote, enforce the law. Why are we not trying to prevent a crime from happening in the first place? It's just unfathomable to me. So if your question is, as a city council member, do I uphold and keep that gang database? I say absolutely.
So Elijah, I just want to go back on the lawfare a little bit. So judge sides with you, a Democratic judge, may I say?
Yeah,
sides with you. He gives you the victory, essentially putting you on the ballot. And then last night you're served with an appeal.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when you got that? Like, what are your thoughts now?
Well, I wasn't served with an appeal. Again, my lawyer was the one that texted me.
You know what I mean? They admitted an appeal into the court.
Yeah. Again, it wasn't surprising to me. I was kind of just celebrating, like, yes, okay, now we're gonna keep going ahead. Now the fight begins, and no, you got to go back to court. And that was my only thought. It wasn't surprising, but I'm ready for it. They can keep throwing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. I'm here for all of it. So continue attacking, keep going, keep wasting your own resources, because at the end of the day, you have to run a campaign against me, and you have to beat me in a campaign. And the people of District 45 are going to see that. And the people of District 45 are going to vote according to that. So keep going. Keep coming at me.
I have to say, it's important to note how impressive it is at a young age that you have the fortitude to not cringe by these lawsuits and to not back away. Because I think there's a lot of people at your age, that's exactly what this is. It's a scare tactic to try to get you out of the race. I think it's flattering that you pose such a figure in this race, that they're taking such extreme measures when it comes to lawfare to try to get you out of it. It just shows it's a complete game, and it's a circle that they don't want anyone to burst in that bubble. So I would be completely flattered. I think it just shows the person that you are. I mean, you have extreme amount of potential that if you're a threat at your age, I think you're 22 years old, right? Am I right? And it's extremely impressive. You were a ball player. You excelled in school. You had your own business. You were able to stay away from gang life. I mean, you showed really what someone can do when you have the proper mindset. I mean, God bless you. It's outstanding. So we're talking about, if we're segue in talking about the gang database and talking about crime, what are some of the specifics or particulars that you take interest when it comes to the police department? Are you an advocate for intrusive police work? Something that we talk about on this platform, right? Talk about the cops engaging the community and actually making arrests. What style of police work do you think is effective for your district and effective for New York City?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's not something that I looked into as much. I think when the job needs to get done, the job needs to get done. And it's very simple. As far as, so elaborate on that a little bit more. So give me a scenario and
sure. So, in New York City, what's been most effective is broken windows, right? Broken window style policing. And what we see from the legislation for the New York City Council, they just keep chipping away at the police department. They want to remove the gang database. They decriminalized jaywalking, made it legal. They want to stop the police department from doing car stops and getting illegal firearms off the street, making big arrests by having car stops and minor violations. Just keep chipping away at the police department. So what I'm curious is, what style of police work do you favor? Do you favor the broken window style policing? Do you see yourself as more community type policing? What do you think is most effective? What do you want to see for your district?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. It's hard to say now because we're at a point where radicalism is very transparent. And so you have people who are committing crimes and continuously committing crimes in and out of jail. And for that, you need that broken window kind of thing and prevent it from happening. Let them know that the police force is there and it's not to be, taken for granted. But the other side of it is the community is mistrustful to the police. And I'd really like to see that the community take well to the police force and have the police force come out there and show, hey, listen, we're not here to throw every black guy that we see in jail or every Hispanic and look at them as criminals, and just let them know that they're here to keep us safe. And people are mistrustful. My community is very mistrustful to the police. And it's a societal brainwashing that we've had. And I can't say, as ignorant as I believe it may be, I can't say that I blame them specifically, because it's a generational curse where we're saying F the police and, all cops are bad. All cops are just out to arrest us. They're all pigs. They're all, whatever slander the police get. So, again, to answer your question, I think it's a bit of both, and it needs to be looked into a lot more specifically.
So Elijah, you're in a heavily blue district. Like you said, you're the first Republican candidate to run there.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably 10-1 Democrat voters. Why do you think she's using lawfare against you? What do you think? Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know you don't know specifically, but why do you think Farah Lewis is fighting so hard to not even get you on the ballot?
Yeah, I think it's a systematic advantage for her. Actually, from the last that I remember looking into it, it was 13-1 in this district. But she just simply doesn't want to run a campaign, and with this appeal, from what I know right now, is that she's only challenging me on the Republican line and not the conservative line. The conservative line she's leaving alone. But either way, she has to run a campaign against me. And I think it has to do with legitimacy, where, if you say a Democrat versus a Republican, it's 50-50 head on. But in her mind, if it's a Democrat versus a conservative party, now she feels, oh, okay, well, I can just sit back and chill. I don't have to run a campaign. She's never run a campaign. The 2019 election was most likely, in my opinion, I'm just saying in my opinion, was most likely given to her. I mean, she ran. I think she got within 2,000 votes of the second place person in the ranked choice voting. But other than that, it's swept on by Democrats. Again, I'm the only Republican, or the first Republican that's ever come out of District 45. So you have that. Okay, now Democrat. Okay, we're gonna go with Democrat. Democrat again. Democrat again. Democrat again. It's just passed on. So she doesn't want to run a campaign. It's very simple, and she sees the premise that we have. She sees the campaign that we have, and she knows that the people in her district are not. They're not liberal. Caribbeans. We have all Caribbeans. Caribbeans are not liberal. They're conservative. They believe in traditional ideas. It's not. Again, how are you going to say that someone that comes from the island is wrong for believing in everything that they learned on the island? You know, it's common sense. You're going to keep the values that you have intact that you've learned for generations. And so now that there's a challenger, and a challenger that actually has common sense and is not radicalized, now it's a threat. So that's basically why she's using Lawfare. She doesn't want to run a campaign. She's never run a campaign. This will be her first time.
You know, it's interesting when we talk about Lawfare with this, right? And what you're saying, from what I hear, because, you know, what John said is this is a heavily blue district. But what it seems to me, I mean, you're someone that has insight of this community, and you talked about the Caribbeans actually having conservative values, and you're on the conservative line. Are you saying that there is a majority conservative actually presence in that district? Are you saying that? Because, you know, we're led to believe that minorities in Brooklyn, especially New York City, you know, they have to be on the Democratic side of things. Are you saying that the majority of this community, are you finding that are actually on the conservative line, that they actually have Republican views, that they're going to seek the Republican candidate? So she sees you as a major threat. Is that what you're saying here?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think that all the Democrats, even in this area, have those old school values that, you know, it's in moderation. You know, that Democrats are the family, are the party of the working class, blue collar people, and they still have that mindset. So they ignorantly vote Democrat. Why? Because they're not involved in politics, because it's become so radicalized. You have MSNBC, CNN, what's another left wing, ABC, or pretty much all of the media in New York is left leaning. Then you have Fox News and Newsmax. Then you have your far right. You know, people don't trust it. So when you get into the community and you actually say, hey, listen, taking politics out of it, taking media out of it, what do you value? Do you value family? Do you value individuality? Do you think that the government should be taxing every single dollar that comes in and watching you with the highest prescription glasses? I don't even know the analogy that I was going with, but you know, you ask these people, and I'd say about 80% of the people that I've spoken to during this campaign feel that way. They have those traditional values. They say, oh, hell no. Why would I want to be taxed more? Hell no. Why would I want a single mother to be the head of the household? Because, you know, yeah, we're for women empowerment, but you don't want a father figure in the household.
I love hearing this, because we're talking about families, right? Families that want a good life in New York City. They want a life where they actually have money in the pocket, where they can raise a family. Quite opposite from what we hear. And that's what you're saying here. They're being gaslit. They're being led to believe they have to be a Democrat. The Democrats are just taking them down this complete sewer. None of it makes sense anymore. That's why we need people like you, that real New Yorkers that want values for families, that want things that make sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and look at me. I grew up with only my mother. My mother raised 2 kids by herself. So I understand that dynamic, and I understand, and I have so much respect for people. And again, my mother's a conservative as well, because she understands the real values and the real struggle of people. But progressivism is a privilege where you can allow everything to be because you already have everything that you want. Traditional values come with struggle, and this community, specifically in Flatbush, East Flatbush, they understand that struggle, and they understand doing what needs to be done, not doing all the extra stuff that you have the privilege of doing after you've taken care of all of all of the necessities.
Yeah, like often, I think that's the biggest lie that's ever been told. It's like, oh, New York City is a Democratic city. Maybe traditionally people are registered as Democrats, but you go to a community like East Flatbush, if you went there like at the height of COVID, you walked in a park, you spoke to some Haitian dudes or some Caribbean dudes, they're gonna sound like as right wing as you ever heard in your life. As a matter of fact, I pretty much agreed with them on about everything. One of my good friends, he no longer lives there, but he has a house still in East Flatbush, and he used to say it all the time. He said the only place that he could go for normalcy in New York City were in neighborhoods like East Flatbush, where people would say, "Oh, poor, working class," and he goes, gets the label of Democrat. He's like, but these people are not Democrats. They're not your traditional white transplant lib who, and I don't know have a better way of putting it, but that's what it is. Like your white, your gentrified white lib that comes down the block. That's not the community makeup of Black and brown people. I think Black communities, Hispanic communities, if you actually have a candidate that'll go out there and speak with the communities face to face and be a real person, I think I think you could override whoever anybody's registered as or what they're registered as. And I think that's why you are a threat, because you're out there on the street, you're talking to the people, you're from the community, and Farah Lewis does not want to get out there and have to do what you're going to do. So I personally think, as much as I would say you're a huge underdog in the race, any political analyst would say you're a huge underdog in the race, I see a clear path to victory for you. I really do. If you get out, boots on the ground, what's your campaign going to look like? What are you doing from here? I know you have to get over this hurdle of the court, but let's just say you're past it already, because honestly, I looked over your stuff and I don't think that they have an argument. So yeah. I believe that if all is well, you will be on the ballot in June. And so what's your campaign strategy going to be going forward?
My campaign strategy is to already be the councilman. I'm going to show people what I'm going to do specifically without having the power to, enact laws, without having all the money that I need to actually, hold, bigger events or provide resources to people. But other than that, it's a very grassroots campaign, holding events and teaching people about civics, teaching people about entrepreneurship, teaching people about individuality, how to do your taxes, how to survive. This is exactly what I'm going to be doing as the councilman. I think as a councilman, although I'll have a nice, pretty seat in City Hall, my community is still struggling. Once I get on that train and I go all the way down to Borough Hall, my community is staying here, and they have to live with the realities of life in Flatbush, in Midwood, in East Flatbush, in Flatlands, Marine Park. They have to live with that. So when I come back here, I need to get my hands dirty within the community. It's not, hey, I'm going to create a legislation that nobody knows about. Nobody has any legal understanding. Nobody has the political jargon. They're just regular people. And that's what I need to bring back to my community and allow them to understand what I'm doing for them. Not just, I'm going to do it for you, just vote for me, and that's it. No more. You don't see me anymore. I'm the councilman. You have to respect me. Boom. That's the attitude that I feel these politicians have and that Farah Lewis has, because 99% of the people, and I say this genuinely, not attacking her, 99% of the people that I've spoken to do not know who she is. 99%. So
well, that's the reality, right? That's the reality, right? Farah Lewis doesn't want to have her boots on the ground because she can't relate in the manner that you can. You're a real person. You're a real person that grew up in New York City, that can relate to these people in Brooklyn, that can relate to your community, and especially a community like the 7-0 that is very diverse, which shows that you're a person of diversity and a person of adversity as well. So with that being said, you talked about teaching people, and you actually want to have a legit platform for your people. So let's talk about, you talk about life in New York, right? Life in Brooklyn, life in that area. Obviously John and I both retired lieutenants, a security and public safety platform. Anything centered around public safety is really important to us, right? So Rob Lukash, Finance Unfiltered family, will be on the executive perspective later. Mentioned earlier in the comments about the diaphragm law, something that is a major concern. We need public safety. Would you, if seated as a council member, and I do believe you're definitely a threat, and I hope that you win, and I think you can win, especially this opposition you receive, just more polarizing. Would you repeal that diaphragm law? Because if you're aware what the diaphragm law is, which I'm pretty sure you are, but if not,
no, educate me on that. I haven't heard of it.
Sure. So police officers, when they're making an arrest, intentional or not intentional, can't put any pressure from the neck to the stomach, front or back. It's called what the diaphragm law is, and the city council legislated the diaphragm law, where a police officer can be arrested for taking such action, to me, which makes things far worse, where a police officer now has to use blunt trauma to actually get someone under custody. So it's absolutely ridiculous. Would you repeal something like that, the diaphragm law? And I hope you have an opportunity to really look into the diaphragm law, because it really handicaps police officers from doing their job.
Yeah, I mean, on that premise, it's something I would definitely consider. I can't say for sure whether I would or would not. I think what you're explaining to me is a once in a lifetime or once in a very rare instance that occurs. And we're trying to now make legislation on that to deprive cops from doing their job. And if the situation arises where you have to use a certain amount of force, now you're going to be arrested and, incarcerated for doing your job. So again, I think it's a case by case basis. On the premise that you just explained to me, I think I would be on the side of leaning towards repealing it. However, again, I think I'd need to make a more educated decision before I actually say yes or no.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying you need a more educated view on it. And I can tell you this from policing experience and just from experience training in martial arts my entire life. It's virtually impossible to take down a person, a subject, someone who's resisting arrest without putting any pressure on the diaphragm law. It's pretty much at the point. If you watch any police videos, that we violate the diaphragm law in almost every police encounter.
Yeah. Again, that's why I need to be a little bit more educated, because I've never had to take someone down like that.
At least you're honest and you're flexible, and that I appreciate.
Yeah. So Danny says that Bob Holden actually has a bill on repealing the diaphragm law that we need passed. So obviously, he needs to get educated on it. And for those of you in the chat, there's a lot of questions. Oh, will you repeal this? Will you do this? And I just want to say one thing right off the bat. No city council person has the power to repeal anything. They have the power to introduce a bill, and that's about it. And I'll tell you right now, the way that city council seated, any Republican that introduces a bill is not getting it passed. So, I mean, we have to start being real with what's happening right now. If Elijah gets in, he's playing defense. He's not playing offense. And that's, I think everyone has to understand that. I often see Republicans eat every Republican candidate alive, and they say absolutely nothing about a socialist in their district, absolutely destroying their way of life, stealing their hard-earned income, taxing them more, making their communities less safe, their schools less safe. And they say absolutely nothing. But when you get one guy that steps up, puts his name in the fray, says, I'm going to be the Republican candidate in a Democratic thing. And everyone's like, what are you going to do? You're going to do this? You're going to do that? You're going to do this? No, you know what he's going to do? He's going to play defense. That's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to do. So, I think people need to understand politics before they weigh in on it. That's the biggest hurdle I think we have, because the hurdle is, one, breaking the low information, having people understanding how laws get passed, how things are passed, how things work, have a real expectation of what a candidate can do, right? And then the other thing is getting them out to the polls to vote, because there's a lot of people that do this. I knew a lot of cops that did this. I'd be like, did you go vote today? No, I didn't vote. You live in New York City, but you didn't vote. Most important election in New York City history, Bill de Blasio's first election, This is going to determine the way public safety is going to be in New York City, the way the NYPD is going to go. Ask how many cops. I'd love to get that stat, because I'll tell you it was probably about 5% that actually lived in the city and then actually even went out, and then even further down, the ones that actually went to the polls to vote. Absolute. What's going to be your plan to try to get people out to vote?
I mean, it's about education first and foremost, because if people don't know exactly why they're voting, they're never going to vote. And the second part about it is my marketing strategy. I think my generation is very turned off by politics. They just see, older white guys in suits and ties and very, very boring. And then you have, the Democratic Party, who they just pretty much stay silent and only come out as activists when it suits them for a PR stunt. We need to restructure marketing. And again, I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur. We need to do what's right for the next generation. The older generation, it might be a little harder to catch them because they already understand and they already know what corruption looks like in politics. So they may be a little bit more mistrustful. I'm focused mainly on my generation and the next generation in seeing that politics is actually a beautiful thing. When you really look into the premise of it and you really look into what it's supposed to be, it's a great thing. And I think it could be restructured and remarketed as something that is beneficial for the community, not harmful to it.
I'm super impressed. I'm super impressed. I read all kinds of business books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all kinds of tax-free wealth. And so to me, I think it's amazing that at the age of 19, you started your own business. You just talked about marketing. Mm-hmm. And I know, so if you are a city councilman, and brother, I hope you win. I really do. What type of policies would you support, or maybe try to have passed to support small businesses? What would be some policies that would be under your wing?
Yeah, well, there's one thing that's innovative that I really want to push, and it's on the top of my mind when you ask that question, is I want to introduce small business development centers. I think the city has introduced, different programs that they say is for small businesses, but it's really just a funnel right back into their own pockets. Small business development centers is going to be basically like a community center, but for entrepreneurship. And people need to learn about how they can fund their own business with an IUL. People need to understand how to save money and actually invest it the right way, rather than just a commercial telling you, oh, get 5% back on your high yield savings account. Meanwhile, inflation is 6-7%. People don't understand that. I didn't understand that. So it's bringing the education to the people, and then providing resources, and it's hard to really explain specifically what it's going to look like, because I need to understand what powers I have when I get there. But also a big part of it is looking at the budget for the year. We've been wasting a lot of tax-paying money. And look at this. Think about you guys. You guys are paying taxes to try to get me off the ballot, for them to try to get me off the ballot. That's what you're paying taxes for. So we're wasting resources. We have the resources. We're the richest city in the world, and we don't have the resources to help small businesses that are actually 99% of our economy in the entire country. That I don't buy it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to think about that logically. We have the resources for small businesses. I just need to learn exactly when I get into place, because there's only so much you can learn from research, from the outside looking in. So when I get in place, then I'll have a more solid plan. But small business development centers is on the top of my mind for small businesses.
I just got to say before John asks this question, I'm impressed. And I really like the fact that you're honest. And you said that, hey, these are things I want, and I don't know have the exact answers. And when I get there, I'll do even more research. And what you're showing is that you have the potential and you have the desire, rather than some people we see say they have the answers to everything and just try to gaslight. So I respect that a lot. That's
right. I'm not the end all be all. That's one thing that I want the voters to know. I'm not the end all be all, but I am going to be the example of what leadership should be. and it comes to everybody. Again, I can't talk to 150,000 people on a daily basis and check in. Hey, how you doing? I would love to, but I just can't do that. Nobody can. And so people need to understand how to not only survive and work paycheck to paycheck, but people need to learn how to thrive. And that's what I'm coming in and I'm doing. I want to add on to the point that John said, when I get in, I'm playing defense. Yeah, I think in the walls of City Hall, that is pretty much accurate. I'd be playing defense when it comes to that. But when it comes to my community and actually being a leader within my community and being the city councilman, I'm going on full offense mode. There's a lot of things that need to be done. There's a lot of generations of struggle and adversity that need to be overcome. And in 4 years, my first term, I'm not even talking about beyond that. In the first 4 years, we're planning on reversing the general feeling that politicians or the government is out to get people. Well, I think in this case, you might have a point. But if you learn how to be an individual and actually live the American dream, people are born here, but they never really live the American dream. That's a big part of my administration when I'm the city councilman.
Well, I mean, it's a huge undertaking. It's not something that shouldn't be done. I applaud you. I mean, I think basically every politician, including some Republicans, would fight back at educating the people and empowering the people and wanting them to be successful and learn business. New York City is completely an anti-business place. I mean, you started a small business. Yep. I mean, the amount of fees you have to pay, the taxes you have to pay just to operate your business is like no other place in the country. It's absolutely ridiculous. And from the minute you open your business, New York City's sole focus is shutting you down. Yep. You're fighting against New York City. They're not trying to help you. They're not trying to empower you. They try to empower their friends. They help their friends' businesses, the people that are up at the top. You make some good campaign donations, you might be all right. But if you don't, you won't. So I applaud you. I think that undertaking's there. I'll tell you right now, New York City has money that everyone in New York City could get 2 massages a day, paid at like $50 to $100 a day. That's how much money is wasted in New York City. Every tax-paying citizen could get free massages, free childcare. The money's there. The money's just being completely misused. There's money there to fund your idea. It's just it's easy. It's easier said than done. But I do agree with you. Like I'm saying, you're playing defense legislatively.
Yeah.
But as far as from your pulpit, as far as like now when you obtain that seat, you're a figure, you're a political figure. And too often I see too many people yield to power in the system. I see them come in with a fight. I see them get elected, and then I see them yield to power. I see things that, directly harm their community. And I'm fully aware, I'm a realist, I'm fully aware that as a councilman, you can't stop a totalitarian mandate. You can't stop a totalitarian tax coming down. You can't. You're at the mercy of whatever's happening coming down from the state, and sometimes even what's coming out of your own body. But what you can do is use your pulpit and go out and rail against it. And too often, I see politicians that do not do that. Will you be a pulpit for your people? Too often, I think we see in New York City, people feel shut out from their council person. Like you said, people don't know Farah Lewis. If you ask the majority of people in city council and you go through the majority of these districts, they're going to say they never seen their city council person one time. Or I tried to contact them. They never called me back. Do you have any pledge to your community here?
Yeah, I do. Even in my campaign, I've been giving my cell phone number out to people. That's how transparent I am. Again, I can have attacks from the left, from the right, from the north to the south. Again, I don't fear them, and I don't fear system. I don't fear money. I fear God, and I walk with Him, and that's it. It's very simple. That's exactly why I'm a threat in this race, because I don't back down to any oppressive system that is hurting not only myself but hurting my family. hurting the people that I love, hurting the people that I see every day. When I walk out and I walk into Newkirk Plaza, that's my general area. I see that, and I see the struggle, and they can't stop that. They cannot stop that. They can try to sue me, they can try to shut me down, they can try to create false media narratives, but I'm 100% transparent with my people. So that's my pledge to hold me accountable. And I say it right here today. You can take this clip and post it everywhere. Hold me accountable if I'm not fulfilling the duties of city councilman and fulfilling the duties of a leader in New York City. And I say that to you genuinely. Hold me accountable, record it, keep the clip. That's who I am. That's who I am as a person. That's who I am as a man. And that's who I am as a leader. And that's who I will be as your city councilman.
I love it, brother. Listen, the audience is a major part of this platform. They're engaged and they're a part of the process. And you're getting a lot of support here. I don't know if you had a chance to see the comments. There's a lot of support. And people like you because you're just genuinely honest and transparent. There's things that you're savvy on. You dig and dive right into it, and stuff that you said you're not sure. You were honest about it and said you would look into it. And that no one expects you to know everything. And I read stuff about interviews. And when you interview for a job, it's not necessarily the candidate that has the most knowledge. It's who's likable, and you're likable. And I think that's what's great. I think that's really something that you should persevere, because you are a likable person, because you're honest. You're a person someone who can relate to. And I think that's what politics should be. You're serving the public. You're likable. You want to talk to them, and you keep talking, going back to my community and the people. And that's what I really like about it. So you talk about the community and your people, and you said you obviously you couldn't talk to 150,000 people. So how are you going to get your community together? How are you going to get the community leaders together that you can actually address them? What's your plan, part of your platform, and how do you get your community together? Are you going to have meetings? What is your plan to do that? Because you talked about teachings and stuff like that. So what's your plan to get your community together, to get your message across and to educate them?
So right now, as it stands, when you need resources, you need to go to your city council person. I take a completely different route on that, and I'm going to the people. I'm going out to local synagogues, churches, mosques. I'm going out to local schools, local businesses, local nonprofits. I'm going out and I'm spreading myself all across the district and going to the people. You've never really seen that. You only see people going to the people when it's to ask for money, when it's to ask for a donation, when it's to ask for volunteers, when it's to ask for votes. But you never see anything else in the next 4 years. And so that's my commitment going forward, and going out to the people and getting them involved, letting them know my name. Because if they know my name and they know what I do, then every time they're reminded of me, they're going to think of the association of, oh, yeah, that's Elijah Diaz. He's in politics. Oh, matter of fact, I should look. Is my street clean today? Or is there construction going on for 6 months to a year in my neighborhood? Maybe I should call Elijah. Maybe I should see what's going on with that and get involved in my community. It's going to be a subconscious thing in getting people involved. And the only way that we can do that is actually being a face in the community. So that's simply what I'm doing, going to the people.
So let's just show what you're up against. Before we do, I'm gonna bring in a clip from New York City Council. But before we do, I just want to get your thoughts on. Do you feel that the NYPD is a racist organization? Do you believe that New York City is a racist city?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No other words.
So I'm going to bring up a clip. From Tiffany Caban, City Council member Tiffany Caban, Democratic Socialist. She comes out of Astoria, Queens. There's a big push in City Council now where they want to ban car stops. Mm-hmm. They want the NYPD not to be able to pull over cars because they believe that it's systemically racist based upon the number of the demographics and the number of enforcement alone. This has been the basis for why they've repealed or put in laws for almost everything. And what what they use to do so is say that the law or the practice itself, it's racist because the overwhelming majority of people who are stopped are black and brown. Who are issued summonses who are black and brown. Now, there's numerous factors on there, and we could go into this for about 6 hours, and we still wouldn't touch every topic. But I just want to just your thoughts about this segment right here. So that this is the city councilwoman Tiffany Caban, and she's basically saying that the NYPD is systemically racist.
A black person gets stopped versus a white person, they are being searched 10 times more. What is it about their behavior that is different, that is rising to the level of a search consistently 10 times more than a white driver?
Well, since there's no way to review, at least right now in this moment, every single stop that is contemplated in this vehicle arrest report, I cannot answer
But we
that.
do know that cops have discretion.
If you keep using this like it's some weapon, let me make sure to clarify for you. Yes, of
It
course.
is a weapon for the police force to continue to disparately criminalize black and brown drivers. It is a weapon. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So let me explain, right, that of course they have discretion. If you're talking to a human being and they're like, I'm trying to get to my daughter's recital, I didn't mean to go 8 miles an hour over the speed limit. I want an officer to be able to have a conversation with that person and choose
That's a really beautiful example, but it does not explain why black drivers are being searched 10 times more than white drivers. What is it? Are black drivers behind the seat acting more dangerously? Do all of those black drivers have weapons that are visible to the naked eye when the officer approaches? Or is it the officer's discretion in what they're describing or seeing as quote unquote furtive or erratic movement, right? Like you want to dig into DeBoer? We could dig into DeBoer.
Let's do it. Have you watched Body Worn? I know you have as a
Yes, I
public
have.
defender, right?
So, but explain to me why the disparity. Just
have
why
you
the
ever
disparity?
watched a body worn camera where you're like, ooh, I think I understand what the police officer's talking about in their paperwork?
Sometimes, sure.
So there is
Does it account for 10 times? Are you saying that officers feel that way around black people more often than not? You're making my point for me.
What I'm saying is
you should probably stick to answering the question of why is there a disparity between the use of force and the search and seizure of black and brown drivers versus white drivers? That's what I want the answer to.
So, council member, what I'm saying is that any comment that explains a massive type of analysis in a quick 45-second explanation is not only inaccurate, I would have no faith in it, but also it's a disservice to you.
Do you think that it's a problem? Do you think the disparity is a problem?
I can't comment because I don't know the individual factors that are going into account in all of these individual stops. But as you yourself have said, you have seen body worn camera.
Okay.
You understand what some of these things
Let me ask you this hypothetical. Let's say you're walking down, you're walking into a public park and you see trash piled 20 feet high. And I asked you, hey, do you think that trash is a problem? And you go, I don't know, because I can't tell you about all the circumstances about how every single little piece of trash ended up getting piled there and then got piled and piled and piled. So I can't answer that. That's what you're saying right now. When I tell you that black and brown people are being beat up, searched, arrested 10 times more than white people, and you're sitting here and telling me you can't even acknowledge that that's a problem. I'm done. Thank you, Chair.
So again, do you agree with what Tiffany Caban's saying here? She's saying that the NYPD criminalizes black and brown people, specifically black and brown drivers.
First and foremost, I don't know who's getting pulled over nowadays, but we got so many damn cameras. I mean, you're already getting pulled over. You go 29 and it's already getting ready to flash. Man, it's really impressive that we've gotten so ignorant. No, I disagree. I think in the past we did have some systemic problems, and this is going based off of a survey of people that I've spoken to. I haven't looked into the data. I know as a Hispanic male, we're fed the notion that, again, the NYPD is after us, or that we can't act as how should I say, as freely as the white man, or they want us to believe. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I mean, there's no data to indicate specifically what the problem is or who's getting pulled over more than who. There's just no data. It's a preconceived notion followed by entitlement that I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we're continuing this notion in our legislation. It's irresponsible. It's just straight up irresponsible. So I completely disagree.
Well, you know what, Elijah, I'm glad you used the word irresponsible. What's irresponsible here is the paradox and the contradiction that we hear from Tiffany Caban. So early on, I asked you about what style of policing do you prefer? I spoke about broken windows, community style policing. I refer to it as intrusive police work. So what she did here is complete gaslighting, and she used a paradox to try to explain about car stops, and it's a complete lie. And she's using it on baseless knowledge. And the fact that most people are not familiarized with exactly what she's talking about. So what she did was she weaved several things together. And what she did, I'd like to explain what she did was she said, they're talking about traffic stops, right? Now, a traffic violation probable cause is meant, right? So she's talking about people versus DeBoer right now. She threw in the DeBoer case. So she's talking about traffic violations in comparison to intrusive police work, which falls on the people versus DeBoer. So this is not an accurate conversation, because what she's talking about is comparing traffic violations from people that are stopped that are white and black, but now she's talking about people that are searched. So when we're talking about people that are searched, we're not necessarily talking about probable cause and traffic violations. We're talking about people that may be stopped under people versus DeBoer because there's reason to believe they committed a crime, or people who suspect they are about to commit a crime, suspect they're in possession of a legal firearm. So this is completely gaslighting. This is a lie, what she's putting out here, and we're comparing apples to oranges. It's not a comparison. If we're talking about car stops that we suspect someone committed a crime in a city where 99% of the murders are committed by black and brown, it only makes sense. So she's trying to infer some type of racial disparity and racial profiling, and her explanation is a complete lie. We're not comparing traffic violations where probable cause is met to intrusive police work, which we suspect someone committed a crime. That's what she's doing here. That's where it's a complete lie. That's why I asked you, and when we talk about racism and profiling and what style of police work, I'm a big advocate for intrusive police work. I think it's bedrock for safety. I think that's what keeps the public safe. So I hope that's something that you support. So that's why when I spoke on the gang database, I don't see any racism there at all. I think that's a complete lie. What are your thoughts on how are you going to deal with lunatics like Tiffany Caban in council? And I think that's where John's talking about being on the defense. How are you going to deal with these people that just pro-criminal, they completely lie to the public, they gaslight? How do you protect your community from people like Tiffany Caban when you go out and talk to them? How do you protect them from these complete lies?
You can't always deal with people who are blatantly ignorant. And so I'd say, listen, I need to focus specifically. I'm not going to focus my attention on a losing battle. And right now we have a lot of city council people who I believe, may side with Councilmember Caban. I just, there's no fighting it. The only thing that we can do is be real and be pragmatic about the issues. And again, going back to my community, every single thing that I'm going to say is going to go straight back to my community, is that we need to educate people. I'm black and brown, and I'm looking at these numbers right here, and it pretty much checks out. It pretty much checks out. In our communities, we are not teaching our young men to be successful. We're not teaching our young men to actually be men, be respectful, be accountable, be transparent, be leaders. We're not teaching that in these communities. And it comes from within the family unit that's failing first. So when you're failing inside the family unit, inevitably, when you go into the school system and you go into society, you go to the parks, and you have a culture that is romanticizing violence, crime, sex, whatever it is. And I'm talking specifically to the music culture, because music culture is big in black and brown communities. You're never going to get a society that is thriving and that can be looked upon as a community of integrity. I'm trying to think of the right words. A community of integrity. You see, baseline for white. When I think of white people, or I think of a white neighborhood, I think of safety. That's just me, straight up. You know, I walk into Brooklyn Heights, I walk into Dumbo, I walk into Park Slope. I'm not expecting to get shot. I'm not expecting to get stabbed or mugged. But I walk into my neighborhood. I mean, it's different because I'm from here and I know people and I know how to move. But when I think of a crime-infested area like East New York, I have to watch my back. I have to watch over my table. It don't matter if I have to watch over my shoulder. It don't matter if I'm black or brown, because it's black and brown doing it to black and brown, and we need to be honest about it. And I'm going to use this platform to tell the truth. And if people don't like it, look at the numbers. Look at your communities. Why is it that way? Before, and I'm talking about, you know, let's say pre-2000s, because I was born in 2002. Yeah, I could see how historical indications would say, yeah, we had a systematic oppression of black and brown people. Yeah, I can understand that. And I may even agree with that. Again, I wasn't born in that time. I can't live in that time. But from talking to people, you know, yes, there was a systemic racism thing going on back then. It's not that way anymore. And people need to understand that and stop trying to play the victim role and think, hey, listen, I'm just black and brown. I'm automatically, you know, below somebody else in society. No, you're not below anybody else. Nobody is above anybody in this society. So we need to stop taking that into the system and keep feeding it, keep pumping it, and allowing these people who mean no justice for black and brown communities, mean no success for black and brown communities, only success when it comes to votes and coming back to the Democratic Party, to rely on the Democratic Party, or both black and brown communities, to rely on the Democratic Party and come back to them every time and say, hey, we need resources, we need free. Why? Because we can't survive. We can't thrive beyond our means. So I'm sorry to get a little bit frustrated about it, but
it shows you care. I like it. It shows you care.
This is the dynamic. Black and brown communities are not successful in today's age because, one, of a system that wasn't fair to them back then, and they've taken that into today's era that is no longer like that. So teaching black and brown to be proud of themselves and to be proud of their skin color. If we can start with that, because that seems to me to be the basis of the problem. Now we can get into, okay, how are we going to thrive within our communities? Very simple there.
So, I mean, you basically just spelled out the entire problem in city council, right? The people like Tiffany Caban shouldn't be angry. The average New Yorkers, especially black and brown people, should be furious at the Democratic Party.
Yeah, they're treating them like they're below them. Oh, black and brown need saving. No, black and brown don't need saving. They need educating.
So here's what I have up on the screen is the New York City violent crime risk by race, right? You said when I'm in a white neighborhood, I'm not worried. You're not worried. But when you're in a black and brown neighborhood, you're looking over your shoulder. And predominantly, when we look at the violent crime numbers, violent crime is predominantly in New York City, is perpetrated by people who are black and brown. So here, listen to the violent crime risk by race. Ready? If you're black in New York, your risk of being murdered is 929.8% higher than a white person. Your rape risk is 221.5% greater than a white person's. Your robbery risk, 280% greater than a white person's. Your assault risk, 342.3%. If you're Hispanic, 386% higher at risk than murder. Rape, 157.5% risk of being raped as a Hispanic person versus a white person. 325.5% greater of being a robbery risk, and a 210% risk greater of being assaulted than a white person. And city council's only solution for this is to say that the NYPD is racist. The NYPD isn't perpetrating these crimes. And I get we don't need a totalitarian stance from a police department, but they have no solutions, right, to what we're going to do to uplift these communities and to stop the crime as it's occurring, right? Because it's a multifaceted approach. You have to get to the young. You have to get to the people who are in the middle, who are lost. You have to uplift these communities. You know, RH is on here saying that poverty is the main driver of crime. I will agree that poverty is a driver of crime.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, I grew up in the 80s in New York City, in the 90s in New York City, and my community was safe, and we were a poor neighborhood. So it's not the only factor. There's numerous factors that relate to crime. Yes, obviously, if there's more opportunity, there'll be less crimes of opportunity, without a doubt. But that doesn't account for the murder. That doesn't account for the rapes. That doesn't account for any of that. You know, so you kind of nailed it on the head. And I'll tell you, yeah, you're 22 years old. You're a lot smarter than I was at 22 years old. I'll tell you that for damn sure. And I'm a big supporter. I am. I think we have to have real conversations, and that's what people need, right? That's what we need. We need people who aren't afraid to have real conversations. And you just labeled it out. You're not afraid. You just said exactly what the problem is in New York City without even knowing the data. You're just from your experience.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a pragmatic individual. Again, the data, I don't always trust the data. The numbers are inflated nowadays. And I like your graphic because I saw on the bottom, I noticed they had this specific amount of people that they surveyed and analyzed. So I love that. A lot of the data that, I see in the city council doesn't have that little disclaimer at the bottom. And it just, even across CNN, Fox News, mainstream media, they don't ever have that either. Surveys said, how many people did you survey in your break room? That's basically what your answer is going to be. So we need to get down to the root of the problem and deal with the impact. I'm not here to play politics. That's first and foremost that I'm going to tell my voters. I'm not here to play politics. I'm in politics, but I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to actually help the community. I'm here to speak to the real life issues that people are going through every single day. And that's what politics should be. It's not, but it should be. And that's what leadership of the new era means, of actually leading by example. Yes, as my position as city councilman would automatically make me a leader in a position of authority. However, that doesn't make me a leader. Being a leader is actually taking your people out of the mud that they see themselves in, and uplift them and empower them to actually do it for themselves, so that they can one day be leaders after you're gone, or one day be leaders of their own household, one day be leaders of their community, their sports team, their school, maybe even the country. So that's the type of politician that I am.
I think there's a lot of layers to peel back here. There's a lot going on. And I love what you said earlier. And I keep paying attention to that. You said, I want the people in my community to be men. I want them to be accountable. I want them to be leaders. You keep talking about uplifting them. And what we hear from the Democrats is just keep putting them down and holding them down. It's almost like they have their foot on their heads, and we're not going to take our foot off and just keep the pressure. And let's speak for them. And what you said is they see them as below them. And that if I was black or if I was brown, I'd be insulted by the Democrats. What, you think I'm not good enough? You think I'm not intelligent enough? And what you're saying is you want them to be men. You want them to prosper, and they want to hold them down and suppress them, right? Stephen S., shout out to you, brother. Stephen S., always a good man. Great friend of the podcast. John, he says, right on, John. The 5th precinct is a great example of what you're talking about. I agree. There's plenty of impoverished communities that are not communities of crime. It doesn't always translate. And I can tell you this. I worked in the hood. I grew up in the hood. There's a lot of money in the hood. It's not necessarily poor. There are some people that are struggling. But when we think of impoverished communities, poor, there are some communities in New York State where kids are wearing shirts that are, put together by strings. There's a lot of money in the hood. It's a conglomerate of things. It's exactly what you said. It's the Democrats keeping them down. It's people not uplifting them, not wanting them to be men. We want our boys to never grow, to never have that accountability. So you're spot on. I love you. You're being genuine. So, Elijah, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you said you were a ball player.
Yeah.
What do you do right now? What do you do in your private time? What do you do for fun? Just tell us about you.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm working a part-time job. I don't have too much time, with the campaign, but that's the sacrifice that I've taken. I think we've got a great shot to win. I'm very confident that we're going to win and we're going to unseat Farah Lewis. But that's the sacrifice I've made. Outside of that, I've been working hard. I love to play baseball, by the way. Baseball is my passion, my love. It's been my love since I could hold a baseball. And that's just me, diehard Mets fan. I don't know about you guys, but we're doing pretty good right now. And it's sad that it's not sad. It's a new idea to me that I have to start making sacrifices for the next generation, for my kids, because my family has been divided, and that's what a lot of Hispanic families, a lot of Black families go through, is that we have cousins and family members that we've never even met before, and they're 18 states away. It's not a dynamic that I'm particularly used to, but it's something that in this race that it's taught me that I have to continue going, and I have to sacrifice my own time, playing baseball. And I'll go back to that because that's really what I love to do. But to keep learning and to keep going, keep putting myself in positions that I'm uncomfortable, and learning more about business, learning more about politics, as I continue down this campaign. But that's really what I do. What I do is I keep getting better in every form and fashion. I don't stay in one area particularly too well. It's just not, I get bored very easily. I want to be good at everything. I don't want to be an expert at one thing. I want to be good at a lot of different things. So that's what I've been doing. That's a little bit about me.
We call that a jack of all trades, master of nothing.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's life though, dude. That's what you should be doing. I'm 45. I'm not 45 yet, but I'll be there. And that's what I do. I just try to get a little bit better every day.
Yeah.
That's what we all do. So, any last words before you run, dude? I know you got a busy day ahead of you. You got to strategize this lawfare that's being weaponized against you. And we'd love to talk to you further as it gets later on in the race. See where you're at. Anything you wanna leave us with? Anything you want to tell the audience?
Yeah. I'm not going to play politics again. If you're a Democrat, I'd love to work with you in my campaign. If you're an independent, I'd love to work with you. If you're a Republican, I'd love to work with you. Conservative, everyone that's trying to get involved in the community and advocate and actually make sense, common sense solutions. Again, people have right-leaning issues, left-leaning issues and values. I want to work with everyone, because if I can understand what the other side thinks, then I can be able to adequately meet them in the middle. We haven't had that. And it's not about sacrificing my own values. My own values are my own values, and they'll change as I see them fit. But I can't impose my own values on somebody else and expect them to just sit there and take that. It wouldn't be fair of me to do that, because I wouldn't want that done to me. So Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, working families, whoever it is, I'd love to work with everybody on this campaign. And if you have the genuine intention of making District 45 one of the greatest districts, and I'll use the MAGA thing, make District 45 great again. If your ambition is to make your life better, your family's life better, your community's life better, and your country's life better, then I'd love to work with you on this campaign. Please reach out to me at Diaz for Brooklyn on social media, diazforcitycouncil.com. And I look forward to hearing from each and every person in the audience today, as far as all across New York City as well.
Elijah, I want to thank you. I think you interviewed really well, because you came off genuine, and your interview was real. You were honest. And I have to say thank you so much for your honesty when it came to the diaphragm law. I'm just going to ask if you have an opportunity to familiarize yourself. Please call me anytime. And if you are going to get involved with Bob Holden trying to repeal this diaphragm law, if you could reach out to me and John, I'd love to help you. I've been training martial arts my whole life, and I was, did 20 years police work, getting guns off the street, and I know it works and what's effective, and it's this is really holding cops back. You see the cops when they're tussling with adversaries, and they're mindful of it. So again, I want to thank you. But listen, before you go, you put on a hell of an interview. Great job. You're really an impressive young man. Logic's Finest says it here. He's an impressive young man. You really are. Let's have a little fun. I know you said you were a pitcher. Yeah. Who's your all-time favorite pitcher and why?
Oh, man.
Well, there's a couple. Are you a closer?
Asking the hard questions now. You saved the hard questions for the end. Wow.
I love baseball too.
Now I got to think about it. Okay. All-time pitcher. I'm gonna be biased. I'm gonna go 2014 Jacob deGrom.
Nice. Oh, you really are a Mets fan.
Yeah. 2014 Jacob deGrom. Prime.
Yeah, dark side of the human gave the right answer. Mariano, baby.
As long as you're not going Roger Clemens or Jabba Chamberlain, we're good. We'll stick with Mariano. I love Mariano.
I bet if Mariano was ever a Met, you'd be saying something completely different.
Oh, yeah. Forget about it.
And he said, and I'm a Mets fan. So.
Hey. Elijah Diaz, listen, any last words? Thank you so much for coming here on the Finest Unfiltered. We really appreciate it, brother. If you ever want to come back here, if you just want to get perspective, I really appreciate your honesty. Good luck talking to your community. I know it's tough. And, it like John said, I have to say it is tough because, I like the fact you want to be on offense, but you're on defense because, people have conservative values, but they're led to believe like they have to be boxed in. You have to be a Democrat. You have to be, a certain party. And seeing people like yourself, break out that box is super awesome. So any last words? Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And our chat, they loved you.
Yeah. That's it. God bless you all. Everybody watching, God bless you, John. God bless you, Eric. And looking forward to seeing you guys again, man.
Yeah. We'll definitely do it again, dude. And good luck with the campaign. Good luck. Listen, they always say judge a man by his enemies. So, judge a man by the hate again. So you got some good enemies. So, I'll judge it based on that. You're 22. I think you're going to learn. I think you're going to grow. I think you're going to be a major player if this is what you want to do in the political field in New York City. And I think 100% you could not only change District 45, you can make a huge impact across the city. So, I wish you luck, brother, and anything you need, let us know, and we're here to support you. And to all the haters in the crowd too, again, I judge a man by his enemies, so it makes me like him even more,
You got
enemies? I love them too. All right.
What is it again? Leadership of a new era, right? Leadership of a new era. Elijah Diaz, you heard it here, running for City Council District 45. We wish him luck. A real New York City young man, Brooklynite. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys.
There we go. So, all right, listen, 22 years old, bro. I'll tell you that. I didn't have the brain power to even put something like that together.
I'm super impressed. Impressed. I mean, 22 years old, I was in the Marines, but even then, I wasn't interested in the political spectrum. I even remember back then thinking, 23 years old, I went to Iraq. And I never understood the politics behind what was going on overseas. I never got involved in it. All I cared was, hey, I took care of my brother to my left and my brother to my right. They took care of me. But him get involved in the politics and want to be involved in his community, it's really impressive. He's raised by his mom. Obviously, his mom must be awesome. Sounds like she must be an amazing lady. So super impressed. And I love the fact that he was honest, John. I like the fact that when I asked about the diaphragm law, that he didn't try to pretend. He was honest. He said, I'm not really sure what it is. That's what I don't expect him to know everything going into city council, but him saying, hey, I'm willing to learn. That's what I expect. I think that's super impressive. He's going to be a great man. You can tell.
No, absolutely. And for those of you that are watching or listening, wherever you are, Elijah's links are in the bio. So if you could offer him any support, even if it's just following him on social media, if you could donate to his campaign, we would appreciate that, but definitely check him out on social media. He's up on X, he's up on Instagram. I put those links there as well as his campaign website. So before we get out of here, Eric, there was a police-involved shooting last night. I just want to bring the press conference in. Obviously, everything's preliminary. Just kind of want to get your thoughts and just show the audience what happened last night. Member of the citywide response team was involved in a vehicle pursuit, and they were chasing a stolen Porsche. The driver of the Porsche was on federal parole as per the NYPD for auto theft. So I guess he was like one of the worst offenders out there for stealing cars. Like, I believe the car was stolen from Pennsylvania. Wouldn't pull over. Got too close got within the proximity of an officer. Officer fired one shot and struck the individual driving the vehicle. The passenger was apprehended and arrested. I believe that the driver lost his life. Let's listen to the press conference.
Good evening. I'm Chief of Department John Shell. I'm here to provide you an update regarding an officer-involved shooting which occurred early this evening in the Canarsie section of Brooklyn. The information I'm about to provide is preliminary and subject to change. Approximately 8:06 p.m. tonight, members of the community response team were on the Bell Parkway around Bay Street when they observed a suspicious Porsche with suspicious plates. The officers conducted a plate check on this vehicle, and the plates came back to be stolen. It was later discovered that this vehicle, in fact, was stolen out of Pennsylvania. When the officers attempted to pull the car over at Cropsey Avenue, the vehicle exited, but then at a high rate of speed, got back on the Bell Parkway eastbound. At this time, our officers did not pursue, but radioed ahead to adjoining precincts that the stolen vehicle was headed in their direction. Several exits away from Cropsey Avenue, at exit 13, officers tried to intercept this vehicle, at which time this Porsche, at a high rate of speed, maneuvered onto the service road in direction of several officers who set up a roadblock to stop this vehicle. At least one of these officers, the Porsche came into close proximity, nearly striking him. At this time, the officer discharged one bullet, striking the driver of this vehicle. The vehicle proceeded to go one more exit to Pennsylvania Avenue, where it struck another department vehicle. The passenger in this vehicle was quickly apprehended, and our officers performed life-saving measures on the driver. The driver was removed to Brookdale Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. Everything I described to you was captured on body-worn camera. Our officers were removed to local hospital and are being treated. The driver of the stolen vehicle is a male, 28. He's on federal probation for stolen vehicles, interstate transport of stolen vehicles out of Pennsylvania. At this point, I'll take any questions you have. At this time, right now, no. No, the one officer, the vehicle at a high rate of speed came in close proximity to him, and that was the firing officer. Right now, all I can tell you, he's on federal probation for interstate transport of stolen vehicles from Pennsylvania.
All right, what do you got? What's your preliminary?
Look, I know people are going to say that we beat up this press conference and we're always beating up the police department and doing police work, and that's not the case at all. My phone didn't stop yesterday on this because everyone knew we were going to talk about it in the podcast today. The bottom line is this. It's a stolen car. There's no guns involved. If we actually look at what the patrol guide procedure is, these cops are really on the hook, and that's what we've been trying to advocate for them. We don't want to see them get into a point where they're going to be a pickle. And we haven't stopped anything. I mean, John Shell is the same one as the chief of department that recently, in an interim order, said that these things are going to be that they're going to stop. I mean, listen, I know it's hard. You get a car that takes off on you. We all have that. It's in our blood. We're cops. We take off after the car. But really what we're doing is it's a stolen car. He's not shooting out the window. We don't have any hostages. There's no one kidnapped here. Do I fault? I heard it was a lieutenant. I don't know if it is. Do I fault the lieutenant or whichever officer or whoever in uniform fired the shot when this car was trying to almost barreled into them? No, I don't fault them at all. But I do fault that we're still taking part in these vehicle pursuits in New York City in a high dense area for a stolen car. Do I have a problem with it? Not necessarily. But the problem is these cops could be into a jam or into a pickle. Yes, they're CRT. They fall into a different tier and they're protected. But again, we have not stopped this crime fighting tactic, and we've completely gaslit. And this is under Jessica Tisch. Jessica Tisch is supposed to be the white horse to clean this department, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. If anything, things are getting worse. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I want to say that. Do I fault the officer for firing a shot when the car was coming at him? No. But what led to this? It's another vehicle pursuit. It's a vehicle pursuit for a stolen car. The fact that they got lucky enough that this guy's on federal probation to add to it doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't make a difference. It's still a stolen car. And if we look at what the patrol guide procedure is, these cops could potentially be on the hook.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I first of all, I'm going to give the cops the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, we don't know what happened. We have no idea. Some people are saying, "Oh, it's impressive they stopped the pursuit." I'm just going to be honest. I don't believe anything that comes out of these press conferences, and honestly, I wouldn't want these people speaking at a press conference for me, because in my opinion, I think they kind of threw whoever shot that gun under the bus. They all look in a panic at this press conference. I don't know if maybe they were rushed, maybe something going on. Listen, high tense situation. Maybe just not up to it. We're getting up there in years, all of us, especially Shell. So, I don't think it was his best performance at a press conference. But obviously everything is preliminary. These are crazy scenes, especially a scene that spanned this far from the start of it. We don't know what the radio transmissions were. We don't know. What we do know is there was police work being done, right? We know that there was a car that looked suspicious. They ran the plate. The plate comes back stolen. They're doing their job, right? They're doing what New Yorkers pay and expect them to do. They pursue it, right? They're in pursuit of a felony. Still, by guidelines, you're allowed to pursue that vehicle today. Shell comes in and says that they didn't pursue, they radioed ahead. Now, if you're going to tell me they didn't pursue and they winded up getting ahead of this vehicle later on, I'm going to have a big problem with that statement. I'm not sure that the pursuing vehicle was later the people who actually fired, because then that statement's flawed. If that's the case, the statement's flawed. He does say they set up a roadblock. We know that we're not allowed to set up roadblocks. So I don't know how that came. Was that supervisor led? If it was, that's fine. I just think that needs to be spelled out, right? Traditionally, they say not to set up roadblocks for this exact reason. If a car is driving at you in a ramming attack, you're allowed to shoot at that vehicle, and rightfully so. No cop should just have to stand there and get run over. Shouldn't happen, right? We were trained in the academy that actual order came in later on in years after there was a ramming attack in Times Square. For years, me and Eric, and I'm sure the majority on here, were trained that if we were in an alley and there was absolutely nowhere to go, and a car was speeding in that alleyway and there was nowhere for us to go, we weren't allowed to shoot at that vehicle. And I always just said, well, if I'm in that position, I guess I'm going to jail, because if my ultimate job is to preserve life, I'm going to preserve my own life. I'm not going to just let somebody kill me. So, the department did change that later on, thankfully. But what was said, if you take note, was what Shell says is, and it really is just throwing the person under the bus. And listen, we have body camera. We'll see the body camera at some point, the way things are, the lack of transparency in the Adams administration, we probably won't see this body camera for a while, maybe a few years, if ever. I think that, the jury will see the body camera, though. when that is. But he says the car was in close proximity when the shot was fired. So I'm gonna be sure that Shell had a better chief at his press conference when he shot an unarmed man in the back. Because to me, that sounds like the shot was unnecessary, from what I'm hearing. And again, I'm giving the cop the benefit of the doubt that he felt the need to shoot. He was afraid for his life, and he believed he was going to be run over by that vehicle. And again, that's ultimately what matters, is the cops, how he perceived that threat. And I think it's a credible threat. You have a stolen car with a known perp for stealing cars, and who's on federal parole and he doesn't want to go to jail. I think it would be any reasonable person could conclude that person would kill you to not go to jail.
Well, that's why I wanted to reflect on that. So there's a lot of context missing. We don't have the entire story of what happened. And I want to give the benefit of that also. I heard it was a lieutenant. It doesn't matter to me. But the bottom line is, whoever fired that shot, we still have the case Graham versus Connor. What they felt in real time, if they felt they couldn't get out of the way, if they felt that they were boxed in, that they had to fire that shot in real time, they're protected by Graham versus Connor. And I have no problem with it. And rules were made to be broken. But according to New York State law, you can fire it. As far as what's different from NYPD protocol, I don't have a problem with it. But what the problem is, what led to it is how did we get there? And yes, you're right. Can we chase a felony? Can we chase something for a felony, John? Yes. But a high-speed chase for a stolen car, there's no gun involved, and no one's shooting out the window. We don't have a hostage situation. Does the risk outweigh the reward? Is it worth the totality of circumstances in a high-dense area, high-speed chase in Brooklyn? That's a major problem, especially in these high-dense areas. And and then we add on a roadblock, and I don't believe the semantics that they're saying here. Well, it's not this is complete semantics. Well, it's not a chase. They radioed. The bottom line is everyone's involved. This is a complete pursuit. And again, I was a cop. You were a cop. We know what a pursuit is. I don't fault the cops. It's in our blood. If a car takes off on me, I'm following that car also. But it's the discipline at some point where my partner tells me, or someone gets on the radio, listen, what do we got? It's just a stolen car. No one's firing at the window. And then we can provide the information. But we're setting up roadblocks. And a roadblock, which is not something that's protocol for the NYPD, it actually violates the patrol guide, is part of a pursuit. That this is the actual tactic itself. A roadblock is part of a pursuit. Following that car, radio, getting involved, everything, all the measures done to stop that car. Yes, that's what we're paid and trained to do. And I just feel like they weren't prepared. It sounds like here they're not confident in this conference here. I don't know if John Shell had too many. He didn't sound too good at that press conference. I don't know where he came from, but they don't sound very confident. And you're right. I do think that they're trying to find a fall guy and throw someone under the bus. But John, let me ask you this. If this wasn't CRT and a specialized tier 2, do you think that this would be measured differently? I think it would be, because the totality of circumstances does not outweigh the risk to the community. It really doesn't. This is someone with a stolen car already on federal probation. Where are they going to? What is going to happen? What are they going to be charged with? Who knows? The bottom line is, does it outweigh it? If it wasn't CRT, I think this would be way differently.
Well, listen, they put the chase over the radio. I think that the chase is fine. Like, from what I'm hearing, I don't know why they had to play semantics with, they backed off, whatever. No one believes that, but like, whatever. I'll play pretend they backed off, right? I'll play pretend like that actually happened. But I think they were justified in the pursuit. I totally think they're justified in the pursuit. It's a felony. It's supervisor led. They put it over the radio. They didn't try to hide anything. Now, once you put that over the radio, it's really, if you're the pursuing officer, yeah, you're the pursuing officer, but like every person working that night, every supervisor working that night now is really leading that pursuit, right? They're leading the pursuit. Whoever's in whatever command you get in, once you get to the next command, the platoon commander of that command or the sergeant involved is gonna lead that pursuit. So obviously they felt it was necessary. Again, who determined to set up the roadblock? I don't know. Was the roadblock put over the radio? I don't know. Ron Leeson brings up a great point. And interestingly enough, they never say the rank of the officer who fired the shot, nor do they say the command of the officer that fired the shot. But I think that the thing I hone in here, and I hope it was a mistake. I do. I hope it was a mistake. I hope they just weren't on their A game. Whatever, they're hanging out with Dr. Phil. Whatever it was. But the way they word it and the way their motion at that press conference, and everybody was saying it here, they look defeated. They look disheveled. They don't look like their usual confident self. They don't look like their usual self, and I think Shell kind of gives it away. And again, I hope it's a mistake because, whatever happened, it started from good faith. It started from a police officer saying, "I'm going to stop this perpetrator in a stolen car." Right? It didn't start out of malintention where I'm going to take this person's life, or I'm going to, and situations turn violent and they turn brutal quickly, and mistakes could be made. But what he says there is really just keeps ringing in my head over and over again. He came in close proximity to the officer. That is a lot different from saying that the officer feared for his life that he was going to be run over. And so the officer fired a shot. And I'm going to give the officer, even if it was the guy who I think it is, even if it was the guy who has no business being on the job anymore because he should have been removed, even if it turns out to be him and he's still out there running around with a gun and a badge, even if it's that guy, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he feared for his life. And that's why he let that round go. But I don't think, I think the body camera, and I think that they think something else happened there. That's what I think.
Well, I got that impression also from listening to that. They don't appear to be confident. They don't appear to be sure. And when he said close proximity, that's why I mentioned Graham versus Connor, because what that cop perceived is really what's important, what he felt. And because, John, it's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you. But when you watch these body cameras, sometimes you're actually sometimes much further away from your adversary than you thought, because we perceive things differently in real time, especially when you're under duress and pressure and stress. So to me, I got the impression that the car wasn't as close, or maybe the car wasn't actually trying to take this cop, run him down. I'm not sure, but he felt that. So I'm going to support whoever fired the shot. I support them all the way right now until something changes. I'll give them the benefit of that, absolutely, that they felt their life was in danger. And if you feel your life is in danger, especially in a high speed like that, that's enough for me. I for the most part, I never worked with any cops that couldn't wait to take their gun out and shoot somebody at all, especially in New York City, knowing the red tape that you're going to face, even in a justifiable shooting. And I agree. Listen, I just want to say, I know I might sound extremely critical about this pursuit because I've been involved in many pursuits myself. But right now, in this environment where there's no support and you could potentially land in jail, because I read these articles constantly. There's cops doing 25 to life, not in New York City, in some areas where it's even more favorable to cops for initiating a car pursuit, and the car pursuit goes bad. And I feel sorry for them. It's in our blood. And that's why I'll be honest. Would I take off after the car? Absolutely. I would need someone to tell me you have to stop. I would take off also. And that's why we support each other and hold each other accountable. But again, I feel sorry for them. And that's why I asked you, John, do you think if this wasn't CRT engaging in this pursuit, do you think it would be a different outcome? Do you think it would be a different conference, a different press conference, or do you think everything would remain the same? Does that make a difference? And I would like to know also who fired that shot. Is it someone from CRT? Is it someone from the 6-9 precinct? I don't know. Does it matter? It matters by how it's being judged. But even if it is CRT, it doesn't matter. I don't take any personal. I don't have any ill will feelings towards them. Anything we've ever said about car pursuits was to protect them. But this is the reality. Anytime you engage into a car pursuit, this is the byproduct. And they can turn out bad. And this is bad. No matter what, it's still bad. I hope the cop's okay. It's bad because he was fighting for his life. He had to fire a shot. Now he's in a situation that he has to explain it. And that press conference was not impressive.
Nah, it was definitely a bad press conference. I'm with you, dude. I'm just saying that, like, I think they're like, by the book, by the guidelines, I think the pursuit's justified. Again, I don't know about this roadblock. I specifically remember no roadblocks. But I hear what you're saying. You're saying, should you? You know, and again, I'll say it again, and you already said it here. if you were in that car and that car popped stolen, you're gonna be in that pursuit. You 100% are gonna be, and you know it. So like that, and that's where the supervision's so important, and that's where protecting cops from themselves and pulling people out of that tunnel vision. But I think we all know where the cops from, right? The fact that they left it out, the fact that they left the command of the shooting officer out, just you could basically tell you where they're from, right? They want to hide it. So would the press conference be different? I didn't answer that question. I don't know that the press conference would be different, but I know that when it comes to style of investigation, how they're going to investigate, what allegations they're going to investigate, how, if there's any disciplinary actions taken, whether they're modified, suspended. I know there's a lot of political factors at play. So yes, if you're a rank and file member, you belong to a precinct, your investigation, if there's any discipline, will be treated totally differently than somebody that's on the CRT team. And we've seen that over and over again, right? We've seen a cop got suspended for someone running a cop over, and then the cop comes over and he basically gives her a tap with his foot. Should he have did it? Absolutely not. But there was no injury to that person, and that cop was suspended immediately with 30 days pay. And you know what? And rightfully so. Like, you're not allowed to hit handcuffed prisoners, people who are on their back. But in that same time frame, we saw a member of CRT, 3 members of CRT, be involved in a pursuit in Manhattan. The car crashes. The 2 officers, the driver comes out. A lieutenant runs over, cold clocks the person, basically knocks the guy out. 2 cops are on top of him. Person's on the floor. Lieutenant comes over and stomps on his head and sends the guy into convulsion, causes serious injury to him. Person was in a coma for 2 days, and that lieutenant was modified. And then ultimately back at work with his badge and his gun, and he's out there running around on the streets of New York City tonight. Like, was it him last night? I don't know. But I mean, it's curious, the fact that you're not saying the person's rank or where they're from, so but again, I'm not going to hold judge. I'm going to say just, I lean on the side. I'll give the benefit of the doubt at that time. But what that instance showed is that there's 2 different levels of investigation, and there's 2 different types of discipline in the New York City Police Department. And that disciplinary matrix has been weaponized for political favoritism, because we also saw our good friend Juan Perez get indicted and almost put in prison when a perpetrator put him in a chokehold from behind out of nowhere, and he threw 6 punches. And he was basically had to leave his career. He was almost fired, and he almost spent time in jail. And thankfully, he didn't. Thankfully, he didn't. But, when we look at how the job treats things differently, yeah. Would the press conference matter? Probably not. But everything after that would matter 100%, depending on where they're from.
Well, I tell you, I think what would be different is the perspective of the DA's office. I think which leads me to believe this is someone who's in CRT right now, because if the general population of the NYPD, I think the DA's office would already be all over this, because arguably the DA's office would say, or at least I could assume, that a roadblock led to this car almost hitting a police officer, right? If you weren't having a roadblock, you wouldn't be there for this car that could almost run you over. So they could arguably, I think they could put the blame on the police officers. I don't think the upper echelon or any supervisors would say, unless it's on the radio, hey, set up a roadblock. I'm really surprised by the roadblock. I did almost 20 years of police work. I've never seen or heard during my time, John, maybe you could tell me, ever a roadblock being set up. Never. So I don't know, is this a crime strategy coming out of CRT? Is this something that John Schell has pushed with CRT? I've never in my career, I've heard of some crazy things. I've done some crazy things myself. We've all done things in police work that don't necessarily aren't protocol, but are necessary to get the job done. And I do believe rules were made to be broken, but I've never seen anyone do a roadblock. Have you?
I've seen some and we've all been involved in some real high-profile incidents where we've had to shut down bridges and tunnels and ways out. But in those instances, it wasn't a roadblock that was set up; it was a checkpoint. So I gotta say, no, I've never seen in my 18 years in the NYPD, I've never seen and being involved in numerous pursuits and numerous felony apprehensions. Yeah, I've never seen it. I haven't, not in my time, not my time. No.
I've never seen it. I mean, that was something that was really frowned upon. Because honestly, I mean, you're really putting people in harm's way if you set up a roadblock, and we don't have the equipment that some police departments have in more rural areas. Like I saw something recently. There was a sheriff in Arkansas, and he was basically saying, listen, if you take off on our police, they are trained to catch you and stop you. But this is Arkansas. It's much more rural. It's definitely different nomenclature where it could be done. And they have also the equipment. They throw down spikes and things like that to stop someone's tire. But that's not something that we have, to my knowledge, in the NYPD. I've never seen it. Maybe some specialized secret squirrels unit has it, but not to my knowledge that we have that type of equipment or utilize that type of equipment, especially in New York City. I don't think a roadblock's a good idea. Car barreling down 90 miles an hour. We have cops stop there. I mean, and like I said, in Arkansas, that could work. I saw a sheriff recently. If anybody saw the interview, and he basically said, no one's taking off on us, and this is what we do, and our cops are trained to do it. But that's a complete different environment. I mean, that's why I say policing is not a one-size-fits-all. In New York City, this is a recipe for disaster. And like I said, I want to be honest, John, and I know it. I would definitely take off after that car. There's no doubt about it. I don't care if whatever it is, any car takes off after me, I'm taking off after it. But that's where the discipline and where we help each other, someone to tell me, hey, we got to stop. It's not worth it. Or someone on the radio. And that's where the masculinity of the job and holding each other accountable helps. Rob Lukash, my brother, he says ESU did have spike strips, but they were never utilized. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know they have spike strips because I've never seen it be utilized. I've never seen anybody come out with spikes, throwing them out in the street. I mean, this is wild.
Yeah. Ron Layson, 31 years, 21 as an executive, and investigated many vehicle pursuits. I've never seen a roadblock done. So I mean, that's even a different. He's got almost 12 more years that we weren't on prior, and he's never seen one either. So I mean, yeah, I think that's the reasoning behind it, and I think we could all say today that everyone involved in that scene, all the cops today, would say they wish they didn't chase. Right? They wish they would have just let him go, got him at a later point in time, went and got the car at a later point in time. So I agree with you. Should it be done in this environment? We said it over and over again. You guys are really taking your freedom. You're taking you're not only your financial freedom, but you're taking your actual freedom, your good name, your ability to support your family. You're really rolling the dice for, at the end of the day. Yeah, maybe this dude would have got jail time because he was on Fed parole, but the average stolen vehicle, guy's getting hit with an unauthorized use and maybe some reckless endangerment and all that other stuff, and he's gonna get a don't do that again. It's like why are you risking your life? Why are you risking innocent people's lives? Why are you risking your freedom and your financial health? I get it. You're doing your job. Again, I believe it was done because person was partaking in the core mission of policing. I don't think it comes from a bad place. Unfortunately, you can't go backwards when something like this happens, So just be careful out there, guys. If you're going to pursue, I mean, this could be the result. And then you get these morons at a press conference basically throwing you under the bus because that's what it looked like to me.
I mean, look, Ron Layson said it, right? You read it before, 31 years on the job. So he came on in the 90s where they really were doing intrusive police work and heavy-handed police to stop crime in the Giuliani era. And it was not, and even then it was frowned upon. I mean, John, let's think back when you and I both got on and we were in the 1-2-0 together for a short stint. Back then, in 2004 and 2005, when we were young cops, you think our supervisor in the 1-2-0 would be like, "Oh, great job! You're chasing down this car." They would tell us we were idiots, and that's back then.
I think they would have smacked you in the head. Like, honestly,
that's what I'm saying. It was different.
And then the other cops would have probably kicked you to want to fight you too.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine you were chasing a car down? Nancy would tell you, "What are you, an idiot? Are you stupid? It's property," and that's back then. I mean, And so now that's what I'm saying. It just shows how much weight that the CRT team has, the khaki pants, with John Shell and the DA's office. Because I do think maybe I should have just said the press conference, because I think the press conference is a lead up with the information. But I think if this was general population, if this was just regular precinct cops, I think this would be a different tale, a different story.
Yeah,
I think that's why John Shell's nervous, because this is the khaki pants unit.
Yeah. And TC says all pursuits were shit canned the second they went over. Yeah, 100. Unless it was like something insane, Unless it was something really like, it was a real bad crime. I mean, I locked up this guy doing a home invasion, and I had him dead to rights in a stolen car. He stole the car. He actually even wrote a confession that stole the car, and the DA refused to charge they refused to charge GLA. Refused. I had to literally go to the borough chief. It was like a day of arguing with the chief of the district attorney's office to get them to draw up grand larceny. I'm like, the guy admits he's in a stolen car. He's in a stolen car. I have the lady saying I didn't give permission to this guy to steal my car. He just committed a home invasion, utilizing the stolen car, and like they wanted to hit him with misdemeanor unauthorized use. I'm like, and criminal possession of stolen property. We don't know that he stole it. Like, no, we do know he stole it. He told us he stole it. He has his confession. He says exactly where he stole the car. Like, what are you talking about? He used the car, and like we literally had him from point A to point B to where he steals the car to where he commits the home invasion. He stole it like literally. It wasn't like a long time prior. It was literally within minutes. He steals the car to commit a home invasion and it's like, so nobody cares is what I'm getting at. And that was then. And the DAs were considered better, and that was Staten Island. You know what I mean? Where it was considered, it's the best borough. I mean, but it was always the same case. Like, it's always so. It's like now when the DAs really don't prosecute, now with all of this stuff in there, like, should we be risking your life? Should we be risking innocent life? How would you feel if, God forbid, there's a mother crossing the street with a baby carriage and she gets run over? It might not be by you. Might be by the perpetrator that's fleeing you. How would you feel? I guarantee you're going to say, I should have never chased that car. I guarantee it. I guarantee everybody on that scene today is saying they should have never chased that car. Even Shell, finally, for once, he looked like he got humbled, saying, wow, they shouldn't chase this car.
I mean, I think back just like the olden days, when I was working on Lower East Side as a crime sergeant, we had a chase that was on the FDR Drive, along the FDR Drive, FDR Drive. It's like the service road, and we had a chase, and I'll never forget, we had a couple of our crime cars involved, and we all hit each other, not hard, we all bumped each other, and the car that we were chasing ended up crashing. All the occupants took off running, and we grabbed some of the occupants. We didn't get all of them, obviously we got some of them at a later date, but we grabbed some of the occupants. We grabbed a couple of guns in the car, and one guy in the car was wanted for a shooting. And still then, I know back then, the 7CO schooled me and basically tore me a new asshole. And we got a couple of guns, and because it was a pursuit, and it ended badly. Thank God nobody got hurt. But we all crashed. We crashed into each other. We crashed into the car, and we got a couple of guns, and we got a bad dude. And still back then, he ripped us a new asshole. So, and no one got hurt.
So we said we weren't going to curse no more, Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that even a curse?
Yeah, I'm good. It's not me anymore. I rubbed off on Eric.
How is it me at this point? Wow. But like, I mean, honestly though, could you imagine though, John? Because I just think, I don't know why, I just always think of the bosses in the 1-2-0 when we started. They were no joke. They were super cool, but they were no joke compared to what we see now. And could you imagine you're like, hey, I just set up a roadblock? Can you imagine, like, hey, we had a car. We were
I know I'll never be in a car again for the next 5 years.
Could you imagine you told Freddie Fernandez or Nancy or anything, I just set up a roadblock? Like, what?
That would carry you the rest of your career. Honestly, you can make chief. They'd be like, that idiot set up a roadblock. That's how it is. Listen, last thing, we got a lot of people on here today. We got about 3,000 people on here today. Thanks everybody for joining this morning. So we just had a great young energetic candidate, Elijah Diaz, on District 45 in Brooklyn. All his stuff's in the link. Make sure you go back, check out that interview. We really could change the game in New York City. It's lost. It'll never be fixed. I'm not there. It's people like Elijah that inspire me, because I see that, there is a path to victory here. We got to start from the feet. Let's not go for the head. Let's start from the feet. Let's take back these city council seats, these Senate seats, these assembly seats. Let's uplift these grassroots candidates, these true New Yorkers that are there to right the situation. Maybe they're not perfect. Maybe they don't know everything, but I'll tell you what, they're way better than what we got now, because these people are highly flawed that we have in there now, and they're actually working directly against New York City residents. So let's get people in there that want to work for them. The Athena Clarks, we just had Frank Morano win his seat, right? Frank Morano won. He was the last city council candidate we had on this podcast. He just won last night overwhelmingly in Staten Island. So let's uplift these people. But right now we were just talking about a pursuit that unfortunately ended in a perpetrator losing their life. Again, I believe it was in own actions. You're not going to catch me while people have guns pointing at me, telling me to stop, pressing my gas and running at them and running from the police. So, so we just gave our analysis on that. And I think last thing before we get out of here is, this has been getting brought to my attention numerous times, and we've spoke about it on the podcast before, but we never really delved into it. And honestly, I think it needs to be, because, the corruption in the Adams administration just doesn't stop. And it's really unfair. And the reason I brought this up last night is because, I watched an interview of Officer Mestosa's family, her eldest daughter. Her eldest daughter, Officer Mestosa, wasn't married. She had a couple of kids. And her eldest daughter at the time was in her late teens when her mom was murdered. Right? Her mom was sitting in a THV in the Bronx. I forget what
July 4th on the 4-6 precinct.
It was July. There you go. It was July 4th at the 4-6. So she's in a THV. She's in one of the command centers, and she gets assassinated. Perpetrator comes up for no reason other than she's a cop and murders her. Leaves the children motherless, parentless, right? So the eldest daughter steps up for her mom. City of New York has a rule where they will not leave the pension to the eldest kid. So we have a cop who laid down the ultimate sacrifice, and their children can't get the pension. So the eldest daughter had to stop going to school, had to get a job. She's raising her sisters, and I just want to give a big shout out to her. I haven't seen if there's any fundraisers, but if there are, I will put it up on social media, and I will bring it in here on Friday when we come back. So and to me, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what failures Bill de Blasio and now Eric Adams are? Stroke of the pen, they could change this overnight. It's one person. It's a very rare occurrence that something like this will happen, but when it does, it should 100% go to the children. It's a rare occurrence that this happened, that the pension wasn't left to the spouse or the surviving spouse or was dedicated. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, we have no money to pay the family from what Officer Mestosa put in, because it's ultimately Officer Mestosa's money. It's not the taxpayers' money. It's Mestosa's money. But her children can't get it. Disgraceful. I know the union had fought a little bit, but you got to fight a little bit harder, because honestly, why are we advocating for this harder than you are? It's beyond me. So disgusted by that, and it just to show that this city has no problem misusing funds, and this is why this is, because you can't do the right thing when it matters, but you could do the wrong thing so you and your buddies could steal. So here's Kaz Daughtry, right? Here's Kaz Daughtry, NYPD Online. You go in there. Kaz Daughtry is deputy mayor of public safety. But in reality, he's not. In reality, when you look on NYPD Online and you search Kaz up, he's a first grade detective, meaning that he's still accruing money towards a uniformed pension. So the benefits are higher for a uniform pension, obviously, because the job you do is very dangerous, right? And the chances of something happening to you are much higher than if you were a civilian employee, let's say an assistant commissioner, let's say a deputy commissioner, or even a deputy mayor. So Kaz is still accruing money towards his pension. He's still eligible for overtime because technically he's a first grade detective. So I think he made about $360,000 last year. We know that officers are entitled to half, 50% of their of what they earn each year at retirement past 20 years. We also know that cops accrue money at 8.25% of what they put in. Now, Kaz, because of this, will wind up being the highest paid member of the NYPD ever, with the largest pension ever in the shortest amount of time. This is complete corruption. It's grand larceny right then and there. The idiot Viral News New York City, who has turned himself into a paid propagandist for Eric Adams' administration, even doubles down and shows this, where he shows that as of 7/17/2023, they list his position as assistant commissioner. But in fact, it never really was. He never actually was an assistant commissioner. He never actually was a deputy commissioner. He was always just a first grade detective accruing money as a first grade detective. And you could see it here. Someone else responds to him showing rank detective first grade. Complete corruption. It's grand larceny. So we have money for our friends to steal, but we have no money for when officers lay their life down in the line of duty.
I almost feel like it's remember that old movie Ace Ventura, Pet Detective? It's like Finkel is Einhorn, Einhorn is Finkel. Yeah, Kaz, deputy mayor is first grade detective. First grade detective is deputy mayor. Yeah, this whole thing is interchangeable. Viral News, that complete bootlicking idiot, just jumped all over that. It was absolutely ridiculous. It really broke my heart when I heard Mia Salter's daughter speaking. I mean, I was there that day. I responded to the 13. It was just, it was a sad day. It's terrible. And I went to a couple of memorial services they had at the 4-6 precinct for her. There's no doubt in my mind. As you said, thank God it doesn't happen more often, but we really should take care of the children of a fallen police officer, and especially the way she was murdered and assassinated. It was terrible. It really broke my heart. It was heart-wrenching hearing the daughter talk about it, and it's just terrible. Here's another picture. Kaz Daughtry has so many embroidered uniforms. He wears a firefighter suit. He's also TLC police. Let's play.
Well, I mean, so here you go again. And here's another misuse of taxpayers' fund and grand larceny. We've been doing like a little funny segment every Friday where we've been showing Kaz Daughtry and all the numerous embroidered jackets, hats that he's had for every rank. I mean, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going towards him. So not only is his pension grand larceny, then when you look at the misuse of taxpayers' funds so that he could play Mr. Rogers, and he's doing this, he's creating these videos specifically for the podcast. So I mean, it's laughable that this is what New York City has running when the position he's in shouldn't even be. We don't need it. Most mayors have not had a deputy mayor of public safety or an assistant commissioner of whatever, and then the deputy commissioner of operations. Like, all of this is made up. This kid is. Then we look at that he was rumored to have 7. I'm going to say it again: 7 Craylo vehicles, 7 confidential rental vehicles. Why would one person need 7 vehicles? Dodge Durangos, all fancy top of the line cars. So now you look at plus bodyguards. Why this guy needs bodyguards? I don't know. You're a New York City police officer. Most people don't even know who he is, even though he's trying to be famous. More people know who I am than they know who he is. So, like, and I walk around New York City without any bodyguards. So he has a huge detail. He has all these cars, and he's spending all this money. So he's spending millions, misusing millions in taxpayer funds, and then having these stupid videos generated is even more money. There's millions of dollars being funneled out of New York City right now for people to play games and try to build themselves up, as well as have like these little back and forths with this platform, which is absolutely ridiculous. So last thing for today, but let's like watch this video and talk about it, because it's honestly.
Wait, John, before you play the video, I got to laugh. Almost Done says it great. You said, why does he have 7 Craylo vehicles? Almost Done says, because it's 7 days in a week. That's why. That's outstanding. That's the comment of the day right there.
But dude, like seriously, like, and does he have his own floor to keep all of his embroidered stuff? Like how? Where are you keeping this? Nobody. I have a huge closet. Like, I wouldn't be able. Where are you putting all this stuff? My wife would be like, get all this stuff out of the house. Like, where are you putting all this embroidered stuff yet?
He must have a walk-in closet just for his embroidered stuff.
I don't think you can have a walk-in closet. I think you need a room. I think you need like a huge room.
What agency outfit am I putting on today? Today I want to be Con Edison.
Yeah, Chronicle says all that money won't help him now. We're praying for him. We're praying
These
for him.
comments are great. Oh my God, I love it.
All right, but let's see. Like, and tell me that this isn't totally directed. This was done because he's like, I'm doing this for the finest Unfiltered family while he was on. Watch this video.
Well, thank you.
Today we're in Jamaica, Queens, so we're going to be doing major operations with the TLC, police, and just showing the community and showing that we're out there and providing services to our residents.
My name is Deputy Mayor Kaz Daughtry. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety here in New York City. We're out here with the TLC, Taxi Limousine Commission Officers. TLC officers play a tremendous part in keeping New Yorkers safe. Here's a couple of tips that I want New Yorkers to know before getting into a vehicle for hire.
Our licensed vehicles are very easy to identify. Our medallions and green cabs have a distinct color. All vehicle plates have T and LC embossed on your front and rear plates. Our rideshare vehicle should have our TLC stickers, whether it's on the rear windows or on the front windshields.
Cracking down on illegal operators is TLC's biggest mission. Reason why a lot of these drivers are unlicensed, uninsured. They have criminal records. A lot of these drivers overcharge and like to hold personal items as hostage. There is no record of this ride. So if anything was to happen, TLC would not know.
The TLC is doing its part to keep New York City the safest big city in America.
So, John, not only is it embroidery, but it's also like, how much does it cost to do all these videos that he wants out there? We're spending money on embroidery, spending money on these videos.
Millions of dollars, dude.
To be a self-proclaimed character. Somebody put for TLC stands for total loser clown. I can't. I'm gonna spit out my coffee. This is hilarious. I never seen. He's just a complete showman. He has the time to have these videos all day, get new embroidery. What is he actually doing for public safety?
I mean, and like, you know, like, listen, I get you're going to do informational videos here and there, but like he's doing this to build his own profile, his own social media. Again, he had us blocked and we called him out on the show, and then he unblocked us. He said his account was personal, and then he changed it to public because obviously he was using taxpayer funds to build it. And I'm sure when he's done, he'll take the account with him. But I mean, New York City's spending all this money to generate these videos for this clothing for 6 likes, 1,022 views. And now he'll get some views because we put it on there. But like, this information's not even getting out to the public. Like, it should have been a commercial where it's just the TLC's drivers explaining what they need to use. We didn't need the whole part where him showing off his other embroidered jacket. He didn't need the embroidered jacket. He didn't need to be in the video at all. But the kid loves himself. and it's honestly it's disgusting to watch. And then I watch Mistosa's family struggling, and the city does nothing. You steal millions of dollars. Eric Adams, again, I'm going to say it again. Eric Adams should be in jail. Forget even the bribery. If you guys want to say, oh, bribery is not a big deal, taking money from foreign governments, not a big deal, misusing taxpayers' funds, not a big deal, stealing matching funds, millions is not a big deal. If you guys want to say that's not a big deal, that's fine. There are numerous other crimes I could go down the line, and Eric Adams should be in jail. Everyone surrounding him should be in jail. This is grand larceny. This is a misuse. And it's absolutely disgusting. And for the cops that are sitting there and saying this administration supports us, go tell Ms. Dosa's daughter that this administration supports you. You morons, complete morons. So I got nothing else. You got anything else, Eric?
No, there's just one last thing I want to touch on before we leave for the day. Of course, like, share, subscribe, please. Smash those buttons. We appreciate it. Just want to touch on mental health really quick. Shout out to PSA 4 alumni. I was a crime sergeant there for 6 years. We just lost a member, retired member of the service, Victor Rivas. He took his own life the other day. Just really terrible. I was really saddened by it. I love this particular cop, man. He was such a great guy. I remember working together. We got a great story. One time he was driving me. We were working together, and we chased a perp into the Smith houses. Mike Smith, if you're watching, you know the Smith houses well. We chased a perp, and I'll never forget, we got to the door opened, and I got halfway in the apartment, and there was a lot of people in the apartment, and they shut the door, and my arm got closed in the door. So my arm was in. I didn't know if they were trying to stab my arm, whatever. So I was able to get my pepper spray, and I maced the little bit through the door. I was able to get the perp right in the eyes and get my arm back. And I was like, Vic, I got him. And I look back, and Vic's like this. He's like, you got me too. So I could put, but my point to it also is, here's a guy who was always, he was a football player, always took care of himself, worked out, great guy. We have a big chat with all the guys from PSA 4, and he's always, sending funny stuff, really humorous, and you never know what's going on in someone's life. He took his own life. It's really terrible. So I just want to honor him. And if anyone, again, we really have to do better in mental health, and it's not just the guys on the job; it's retired too. It's a shame. I don't know why a lot of guys take their lives in retirement, but we have to do something better. We have to, let's not forget the retired members. You never know what's going on in someone's life. Help them out. Really, I was saddened by this. If anybody knows him, great guy. It's I'm trying to hold back the tears, man. Really, it's terrible. But thank you so much. Shout out.
Sorry to hear, dude. Sorry to hear.
It's
terrible. They don't like listen. But don't worry. They hired a suicide speaker the job to talk about suicide. But don't it's disgusting. It like the way that cops are treated. And someone pointed something out to me the other day. All the dirt that these politicians do, they don't kill themselves. I was like, that's a great point. He's like, there's no suicide rate in city council. I was like, that's a great. I was like, dude. I was like, you are so right. He's like, no, nobody kills himself in city council. Nobody kills himself in the assembly, in the Senate. No, you could, you dirty mayors, dirty this one. He's like, none of these people kill themselves. He's like, it must not be that stressful. It's definitely not as stressful as being a cop. And there's a lot of demons that are going to come up with you later on after you retire from the job, 100%. So it just is what it is. So yeah, very sorry to hear, dude.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Like I said, we're on a chat. We talk constantly. Like, I don't always have time to actually make comments, but it goes all the time with people from PSA 4, going back to like almost 20 years ago till now, and like no indication that something's wrong. Just always seem happy-go-lucky, and it's a shame sometimes the people that seem the happiest, end up taking their lives. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I know we have to do something and. Reach out to retired guys. Don't forget them. So, again, thank you so much. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but it's just really sad. It's terrible, honestly. And here's a guy who I thought, wow, I thought this guy's always happy. It really shocked me. So I'm sure if anybody here, if you're from PSA 4 and you knew Victor Rivas, man, what a guy. So I had a lot of fun with him. I really did. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Gotta stay healthy in retirement, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, physically getting out there, getting out in the sun, trying to interact with some people, trying to have some community, some type of community. You know, like I said, I think, you know, working out. And then I think later on in life, we got to start looking at different things like creatine, like magnesium, like starting to take supplements for whatever your body's there for. But, you know, IMP Franco says here, he says, Jesus is my demon slayer. Amen. You know, and like, you know, that I rely on my faith. So, you know, I think having a faith base, is very important in life. You know, I was listening to a former general in the army. I forget the guy's name. And he was basically saying, he doesn't suffer from PTSD, but by everything he was saying, I was like, no, you actually are suffering from PTSD. And what he was saying was that every time he got a bad thought or gets a bad thought in his head, he feels that it's a demon entering him. And so he relies on prayer to alleviate himself from that demon. And he gave an example of where he was in a helicopter at one point and he got paralyzed in combat. And he felt that like, there's no way out of this. I should just take my own life. And he goes, and I knew I don't think like that. And that thought had just taken over me. And he's like, and I through prayer, I got that thought out. And, you know, so I think, I'm not trying to be a holy roller or try to convert anybody here, but all I'm saying is like, there are thoughts that are going to be intrusive in your life. And I believe regardless of your faith or regardless how you feel about the supernatural or about God or anything, that is a clear, utter plan on how to fight back the thoughts in your head. You know what I mean? You feel that there's a spirit taking over you and you pray and you put positive thoughts and positive thinking as a way to combat that. And listening to him talk, I'm like, this guy is suffering from severe PSD. He fought from Vietnam all the way up to Afghanistan. You know, he was a battle hardened. You know, he's seen things that are, you know, none of us would probably, you know, our heads would spin. And that's that, you know, but he said, no, I'm not, because these are demons taking over my head. And then I fight back in prayer. So just, you know, anybody that's having these intrusive thoughts, get out there, get out in the sun, get yourself a plan to rip those thoughts out of your head. And those demons could just be, oh, I'm not good. I can't do anything. I can only do security. I can't do, you know, I didn't get that. I didn't have the career I wanted to have, blah, 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 blah. You know, whatever. Things have a way of happening, right? This isn't the life I wanted. Whatever it is, like, get those thoughts out of your head. Put the positive thoughts in there. Have a plan. And just, you know, if you see anybody struggling and you know, unfortunately with these suicide things, I mean, we've said it over and over again. You never knew the dude was struggling. So, never. But if you know, you never know the dude was struggling. Like, you never know it. So it's like, I can name countless people where I like talked to them the day before and like, so horrible. So, you know, listen,
Okay, sorry. I just want to say, like, I learned something that, you know, my son is sick and been fighting so hard. And I heard this term, it's kind of cliche, but I learned it myself. When you're healthy, you got millions of problems. But when you're sick, you got one problem. So that's one thing I learned. And it's so true. Like, now that my son is sick, I got no problems. Like, there's nothing is important right now other than that. So it's really amazing. But when you're healthy, everything's a concern. So let's reflect on that. And I think that's the most important thing. If you're healthy, you got it all. You got it all. Money, you know, I don't worry about money. That goes in your hands and goes out your hands. And but your health, that's number one. So you're right, John. Work out, take your creatine, and your health, your physical and mental health, they go hand in hand. And that's why I say, everyone, work out, you know, train, martial arts, whatever you like. But John, think about it. You're into working out, right? When you work out, at some point, you probably go into bliss and you're not thinking about anything. You're working so hard, your body's stressing. You don't even have time to think about what's going on in your life. So, you know what? There's always a way. There's outlets. And I think that's what it is. We need outlets. So, you know, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. You know, shout out to our great friends and listeners. We're really building a network here. Let's stay strong together. So think about that. Stay healthy. That's the most important thing. And you have no problems.
I totally agree. You know, my father, I told you, my father was a Vietnam vet. He did 2 tours in Vietnam, and he suffered from like severe PTSD. But what he would do is he would just work in the yard. I had a huge yard. And I bought the house from him, so I still have it. And he would just go in the yard and he would like paint or he would fix things, and he would do that for hours. And I never knew why he did that until like now I understand why he did it, because it took his mind off of whatever the hell was on his head, and he would be focused on a project, and then he would operate, and then he would feel fine. After he would die, he would spend hours, sometimes 12 hours. He would do 12 hours out there, dude. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? I was like, I'm gonna find you dead one day. Like, what are you doing? Like, and like, he's like, nah, what do you mean? I gotta get this yard. I was like, all right, bro. He says, you spend your whole life in this yard, dude. But and again, I really, Hood Mayor says it here. Give him the 27 Psalm. Just want to read it out real quick. Whether you're faithful, you're not faithful, there's a lot of motivation in the book. I'm telling you. There's a lot of times we're going to get there. Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked advance against to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though a war break out against me, even then I will be confident. So that was David. That was King David. He said that when armies were literally trying to kill him. So, I mean, and you could take that in the literal sense of the word. People are out here on the streets trying to get me, which they are. Elijah's facing his battles now, trying to be in that race, but spiritually as well, and those spiritual attacks too. So, and you face them. So you need kind of a stronghold to take that from. And so I really recommend anybody going through anything, definitely read David's Psalms, definitely read Matthew. I don't care if you're a Jew, if you're Muslim, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of motivation in that book, and there's a lot of things to fall back on because life doesn't make sense, and there are things we're never going to make sense of, but yet we have to, because we have to go on. So that's it. Sorry for the holy roller thing, but I just think it was important.
No, I like it. Shout out to Hood Mayor for mention that Psalm. I think that was cool. I'm glad you read that. It was really nice. I think that's awesome. Again, everybody, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate it. Let's keep going. And don't forget tonight, I love the show. I think it's awesome. Of course, I'm biased because they're on Finance Unfiltered, but the Executive Perspective, Ron Layson and Rob Lukash, they'll be on tonight, 17:05, 5:05 p.m. I love them. I think their show is awesome. It's super cool. Really something different, unique. Not a true crime story. It's actual perspective from guys that have over 30 years on the job that were, high up in the police department, who could really give you insight from their lens. And, they have a vast amount of knowledge, so many years experience. So awesome. Check them out tonight. And of course, tomorrow, Sal's been on a warpath, on a tear, doing a great job, diving deep into corruption and cover-ups. So stay tuned tomorrow. Also, Sal Greco will be back 13:05 live and get into some deep cover-ups, some interesting stuff. Check it out.
Oh, you just sparked a whole new conversation, bro. But we'll go. real quick. Ron and Rob are gonna bash us tonight. I'm confident. I'll bet you money.
I know it's coming.
I'll bet you money because what they're going to be talking about today is field training unit versus impact. Me and Eric are impact babies. We actually had the opportunity to go to field training unit, but like two idiots, we both volunteered for impact. So they're going to talk about that. So I'm looking forward to tonight. So check that out. And Sal's show tomorrow. Sal's going to have Serena Townsend back on. Serena Townsend holding a press conference this morning. She's holding a press conference this morning that in 2015, Harvey Weinstein had called the girl in on the casting couch and sexually assaulted her. She reported it. NYPD actually did a controlled call with him where he went down further. They had irrefutable evidence of this happening, of this sexual assault happening, and Harvey Weinstein attempting to cover it up and actually admitting what he did. And what happens is Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance just doesn't take the case. refuses to even take the case. So Serena's calling for a federal investigation. She has the former chief of special victims, Chief Osgood, with her, Chief Michael Osgood of the NYPD. And I mean, basically, you know, these things that are being alleged with celebrities all over the country, and we've been saying it for a while, it had to have been going on in New York City, right? Why is Diddy getting the key to the city? Why is all this happening? And yeah, so what it appears is that the NYPD, in conjunction with the Manhattan DA's office, had a group of celebrity fixers who were taking care to ensure that justice was subverted whenever any of these deviant perverts were doing what they were doing to women or children or anybody else. So I hope to see all of them in jail at some point and all of them prosecuted for their trial. Obviously, Harvey Weinstein's in jail right now, and he should remain there.
I gotta laugh. Rob Lucas says, hate impact, but not the people, just the results. I can't wait tonight to see Ron and Rob. They're gonna be abusing us. And don't worry, we'll be watching, Rob. And Ron, I got you tonight. I know what you guys are gonna say. I can't wait. I'm gonna be texting them all day. I'm gonna bother them.
I'm gonna be with Juju and Billie Jean tonight.
I'm calling Stephen Holmes. Can you back me up here?
Yeah, Stephen Holmes. I'll be with you with all that.
We'll be trolling tonight.
All right, people. We had about 5,000 with us this morning. All of you that'll listen later, shout out to everybody on here. We appreciate all you guys. One last note. Thank you for everybody that's on YouTube, that's subscribing to our channel. You know, channel's growing. We hit 10,000 last week. We're almost at 13,000 this week. So appreciate all you guys. The views are tremendous, through the roof. We broke over 1 million views already. Crazy stuff that's going on. So I appreciate everybody. But I looked at the analytics. 60% of the returning viewers are not subscribed to the Finest Unfiltered channel. Please, the job's not going to come after you. Eric Adams not going to come after you. If they do, don't worry. Let me know. We'll have a nice lawsuit. You'll make some money. Nobody's we're done. We're done being afraid. Stop living in the spirit of fear. Subscribe to the channel. Like, subscribe. We appreciate you. Thank everybody.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.